everybody. This was not prefaced. I did not warn anybody that we were going live. Jason hit me up like an hour ago and said, do you want to talk about the Dataslate? And I said, hell yeah, let's do it. And then I had to run around like a chicken with my head cut off doing chores around the house. But we're live now. So we're here to, again, discuss the balanced Dataslate, the alleged one. Obviously, things could change. It is digital. We have just over 2 weeks before it is allegedly going live. So the whole thing could be scrapped for all we know. This is entirely a mental exercise. But Jason, thank you very much for being back on the show. It's been a hot minute, huh?
It has been. It's been I think Atlantic City was the last time that we've chatted, or maybe after that. But yeah, it's been a little while. Um it's been a good time. I mean, the rumors on Reddit and other leaks have made some really interesting positional guesses as far as what's going to happen. And as I know, you are a big Grey Knights player and a big Marine player,
Oh man,
especially Deathwatch.
this thing has my heart just pumped. If half
Yeah,
of it's
so
true, I'm excited for it.
well, and that's just it. We don't know what anything is. They let the playtesters go like a year and a half ago now. So the only people that actually get to see this stuff beforehand is the content creators,
That's right.
and the content creators only get it like a week or two before the release. And
Uh-huh.
with this leak being out there, that means that this data slate and points change should be out next week.
Yeah. I forgot all about that they let the playtesters go. That hadn't entered my mind during this conversation at all. So that's a great point. Like right off the bat, man. You're already like bringing up great information.
Well, and that was a really I was one of the playtesters, so it was very fun for me to actually get my hands dirty and kind of help mold what I wanted to see in the game and the balance and everything else. Um, it didn't always go quite the way we wanted it to. It didn't always end up exactly the way we wanted it to,
Oh
but
yeah.
it's their product, it's GW's product, and in the final say is theirs. But it was still fun. We still had input. We still had a chance to make things better.
Now I
And
want
it,
to dive into a whole nother conversation, but like, how
uh,
did
you
that
know,
go? What was that like? How did you communicate? What was the turnaround time? I have so many questions because I'm a software quality engineer. That is my
hmm
profession, and so I see this too. Like, I'm kind of a playtester in a way where I see beta code, I see beta UIs, I see beta things constantly, but I can only validate small parts of it at a time. And you don't generally get to see the whole thing until you're just about to go live, and then you find other problems with integrations and everything. And with a rule set this complicated, I can see a lot of parallels there, right? Like, I think it was right after the Drakari book came out, I was watching a tabletop tactics video, and they were talking about how they had beta tested all of those rules, but like the Dark Lance didn't have D3 plus 3 damage. When they beta tested it, it was like D6 damage still, and so
well,
they didn't give input on that because it was just D6 damage.
and that's one of the things. That's one of the parts of the process. We would see the books sometimes 6-ish months before they were even ready to print. It would usually go through two stages of us just reviewing the material and giving feedback,
Mm-hmm.
and then we wouldn't hear anything about it. We'd be done with it. Um, and what would happen is when it came time to release the book, about 2 weeks before it actually came out, we would get an update saying, "Hey, here's the final product. Help the FAQ team to make sure we didn't miss anything."
Yeah,
So
that's
we never saw the final work until everyone else basically saw it.
that's awkward, but I don't know. So like when you got some of the rules, did did they say like like here's the book, or did they say like, hey, we want you like how would Drakari play if you could bring Rax in 30-man squads or something absolutely crazy? Like, is it targeted or is it broad?
No, it's we would get the entire book
Oh damn.
um in its, I will call it, an alpha form.
Mm-hmm.
Um and it was really good. I mean, most of the time the writers at GW, they really knew what they wanted to do. It really hit on the IP. It was really this edition more than anything else, they tried to stick true to what an army was supposed to be. And it was really cool to see. I mean, I remember reading through the Necron book the first time we saw it, and I was like, man, this army is going to be amazing. I love it. And initially it was really good. And then other stuff started to come out, and that was
Yeah.
part of the problem with the playtest process. Is we'd be like, cool, the only thing we have to really playtest this against is Marines.
Right.
It's okay, it's not overpowered, it has its plus and minuses, it's playable. And then,
And then we
6 months later,
had Drakari Winter for 9 months.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Because again, I mean, I think there was 30 of us total playtesting, maybe 40, but it was um it was really hard to see all the possible combinations, all the possible ideas, everything that could possibly happen. You know, you go through a book and you find things that stand out, like, oh my God, this is absolutely busted, this can't happen. And then you'd give them feedback on that. But it takes 10,000 eyes,
Yeah.
before somebody goes, well, hey, if you do this, 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 and this,
Yeah.
and
You
like,
realize you can kill everything in the game
yeah,
with one shooting
and
phase with one unit, right? Oh
yeah,
no,
no,
you didn't?
nobody
Whoops.
thought of that.
Yeah. All right. I would love to have you on just to talk about what it was like to be a beta tester. I don't want to get too far out of what our actual topic is, though. So everybody, I'm sure that's on the stream has heard, seen it, been aware of it. There is a leak of the alleged data slate coming out. There are massive changes specifically to Imperium Space Marine factions such as Deathwatch and Grey Knights. So let me go ahead and switch over to my little text editor here that I usually throw up lists on, but today it will be the changes that I care about, which are Space Marines and Grey Knights and Deathwatch as well, which are not actually listed on here, but that's okay. So to preface it, the expected drop date is January 15th. It sounds like that is super squishy, and it might be January 7th. I know that we have LVO at the end of the month. That is the Super Bowl of fucking 40K. So I'm sure they're going to want to release this sooner rather than later so everybody can adjust their lists, do their modeling, their crazy ass 4 a.m. painting up some storm shields modeling.
Well, and
Right?
and there's two camps on that. There's literally two camps. I don't know if you're going to LVO this year. I think if I
Not,
remember right, I
unfortunately.
met you at LVO last year, didn't I?
Yep, sure did. That's the
Yeah.
only time I've seen you in person.
Yeah, I'm gonna be there again, so you should drive out. Um, but there's two camps really on the LVO idea. The one camp is let it all in. Let the data slate in, let the points in, let the new mission pack in, let the new
Oh, wow.
detachment come in, let it all in, and let's just see who can actually make the best out of what we have with no time to really practice. Just shake it all up and see who's the best.
Here's 10th edition, basically. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah, like you guys got a week to prepare. Here's 10th, figure it out. Um, and personally, I'm in that camp. The reason why is because I believe that I am a more complete player when I haven't tested completely what's on the board. If I'm playing with some units that I just want to play with and I want to try them out or I have an idea with them,
Mhm.
I think I can catch people off guard and I can pull out wins with units that other people don't really use. For example, I have multiple Invader ATVs ready to go. Um, because I really want to put them on the table. And from the rumors I've heard, not only are they going down points, but they're also going to be, the sticky objectives for Marines, a couple other things. They may be really good.
Can we talk about just for a moment about how shitty
hmm
that model is, though?
Actually, I'm gonna reach
I
over here a
I
little bit.
found some really nice 3D printed like proxies that are way nicer than those. Oh yeah, yeah, those are them actually. Yeah, I love see those look better to me. I really don't like the Invader ATV at all. I
No,
mean, I
I'm not a big
like
fan of the Mario Kart.
yeah, exactly. It's just I mean, I guess they're in power armor, so they don't really care about the armor of the vehicle itself, but it just looks like it doesn't look like a scout vehicle and it doesn't look like a heavily armored vehicle. I just don't like it, you know.
Yeah.
But
No,
that's
and
beside the point.
no, and I got made fun of today. So me and Brad were sitting down. We were talking about lists and list possibilities for LVO, and I got made fun of really bad because he's like, "Man,
It
I
sounds
don't know
like
where
Brad.
we're gonna." Yeah, well, I mean, he's like, "I don't know where we're gonna get all these heavy intercessors because from the rumors they're supposed to go down like 10 points a squad." And I'm
10
like,
points a model or 10 points a squad?
10 points a squad. So
Okay.
5 guys is like 130 now or something. It's from the rumors I've heard.
Okay.
Um, and I'm like, Brad, I got 20 of them. And he's like, you own 20 heavy intercessors? I'm like, yeah, I love the model. It's one
Yeah,
of my
Death
favorites.
yeah, Deathwatch too, baby. Like we're one of the only Space Marine armies that could make heavy interceptors not completely suck. Or
Yeah.
intercessors, sorry, not interceptors.
So, it's one of those things. You're gonna have to look at what you have, and you're gonna have to maybe find something that nobody else thought of, nobody else thought of using, and
Hmm.
maybe it's good.
Yeah. I mean, switching up things this much, like especially with the new detachment, that's gonna mess things up. I love the idea that they're gonna basically the this is completely conjecture. Just to say that again, this whole stream is conjecture. We don't know shit, but like from what we've seen so far, right? You got the new arc of whatever detachment,
Arc
which
of
is
Omens.
thank you, which is specifically removing required troops. Okay, the troop
Um,
tax. But
it,
if oh, what were you gonna say?
it's kind of not. It's kind of not. It's kind of still there. Um, I kind of want to jump in on that because it's really, really a neat thing.
Well, that's
This
what I
new
was.
arc of
Yeah.
Omens, the detachment itself it's going to be so unique because people are going to be like, oh, I can run this all elite army
Mm-hmm.
and then just lose to somebody because they brought troops and they actually have OPSEC.
Bingo. So that's what I was gonna say is that, but I feel like it's kind of a trap in a way where some folks are gonna be like your Blood Angels player might be like, oh shit, I can bring like 8 more Sanguinary Guard. This is great, right? I can max out at the full 30. I'll be a menace. But then when you think about the fact that if Space Marines really get sticky OBSEC as well, you're not gonna want to get rid of your troops, man.
Yeah,
Especially
and
if they
that's
keep that on
exactly.
troops, right? Like
I
you're
I
not gonna want
haven't
to do that.
seen it. I literally have seen none of this material. Unfortunately, I just all I got is secondhand information on this. I heard it was just the troop units. So you're gonna want troops.
Yeah, that's I mean that's and then the other thing is I've joked about like running I mean Deathwatch, right? All of our stuff is troops anyway, for the most part.
Oh
Like
yeah.
I guess if you
Yeah.
want to run some ATVs or some Redemptor Dreadnoughts or whatever, they obviously won't be. But all your kill teams, all that stuff, all the meat, like the really cool part about Deathwatch, about building our lists, about like running our army, is the kill teams. And the kill teams are all troops, all OBSEC, all like through and through. So I just love what that could potentially do to Deathwatch. And then when you consider the fact that wargear, so right now the only rumor we've heard is wargear is free. We don't know what that means. Okay? It
No.
could it could be like the Plague Marines for Deathwatch where it's just like fuck it, whatever it is, throw it in there, it's free now. But for Deathwatch, that means potentially, if they just go with a blanket change like that, that means heavy Thunderhammers are free, Thunderhammers are free, Storm Shields are free, Deathwatch combi meltas are free, and I've been wanting to run a list that's just Storm Shields and Deathwatch combi meltas for a while now. I don't think it's good. I just think it would be really fun. And
Well,
that's something that you could do now,
and what
theoretically.
people don't realize is that I noticed that Time Guy was talking about it is that he likes the bulky Space Marine units, which I'm assuming he means the new Gravis units.
Yeah, he's
And
talking about the new Bastion box, which I haven't actually looked at a lot of the new combat patrol boxes or
I
whatever,
I
but
haven't seen it either, but if it has aggressors, heavy intercessors, centurions, um, eradicators, plasma inceptors, all of those units, anytime that you get a 3 wound Marine, you can just accidentally goof up somebody's army. Because a lot of guys run specifically damage 2 weapons, and it's to deal with the current meta of Marines, Harlequins, and Tyranids. Because Tyranid Raveners are 4 wounds, so if you have a 2 damage weapon, you're not losing any damage every time you do wound a Ravener. The Harlequin vehicles are all 6 wounds. Again, you're not losing any damage when you wound the vehicle.
right.
And Marines, for the most part, people only brought 2 wound Marines. So if you bring a 3 wound model,
It's true.
it goofs up the numbers. Everything's suddenly wrong.
Yeah. Um, you're not wrong. That's one of the things I love running on like Paladins and Terminators in my latest Grey Knight list. Oh, by the way, I didn't tell you. I actually won a little RTT about 3 weeks ago with my Grey
Nice.
Knights. So I'm moving on up slowly but surely.
I actually
uh,
sold my Grey Knights.
no. Oh well.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I finished painting them, and I'm like, I'm never gonna play these because the Nid book came out, and I'm like, these are gone. I'm buying more Nids.
Well, speaking of which, Ken is asking what the arc and these changes are gonna do to the list that I ran. And to be completely honest with you, I'm going back to the drawing board and figuring out later because one of the Grey Knight lists I've been playing with was as much mortal wound span as I possibly could. So I had uh, purifiers in there for purifying flame. I had the mortal wounds Libby. I had strike marines, and if the power armor strike or marines are actually going down 2 points across the board for each model, that means more interceptors. That means more strike squads. That means more purifiers. That means more mortal wounds. And I think if I did the math right, if that list popped off for one turn, average was 30 mortal wounds, and I'll
That's
be
not
able to
bad.
bring more of them. So I want to play with that. Again, I don't think it's good, but I think it would be fun. Except you get blunted pretty hard if you run into anything that just has feel no pain, some mortal wounds. But
Or if you run into a psychic army.
well, it's just you're forcing them. Then do you stop purifying ritual for points? Do you stop damage, or do you stop my buffs that I want? So I mean,
Well, for Nids that would be a problem, but they would still probably outmortal wound you.
that's
But
true.
for Thousand Suns, they'll probably match you deny for cast.
Yeah. I mean, anytime you run into Thousand Suns or Grey Knights, like Grey Knights is the most boring psychic phase right now because you both get +1 to deny, none of you get +1 to cast. It's just like awful. But
Yeah.
um, back to Deathwatch though. I don't want to get too far into the weeds with Grey Knights because I think I captured a lot of attention from the Deathwatch groups. So Plasma Inceptors are rumored to be going down to 40 points. Let me
That's the
look
same
up
thing I saw.
right now what they are right now.
That would be a 60-point drop for a squad of 3.
Yes, so 10 or 20 points a model. That's 1/3 points drop. So if you take that as a general idea of how many points might be dropping, and you
I
apply that to Space Marines, right?
No, I would not do that because From what I heard,
Mhm.
the average point drop is 5 to 10 or 5 to 15 per squad.
Per squad.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, so you're looking at 1 or 2 points, maybe
Okay.
3 points per each squad. Um, I also heard that the biggest point drops were on um, basically vehicles that were considered useless and are not seen, as well as units that were basically pointed out of the game.
Okay. And that's fair. I mean, because I know I had Deneath on here, a big Deathwatch player from Australia. I had him on like 2 weeks ago, and we were talking about like if there was a 15% point drop across the whole Space Marine Codex on average, not you know every unit, that would be absolutely insane. And so when
Yeah,
I saw 20-point drop on plasma inceptors, right, which is why we're not running them anymore. Like Deathwatch, we used to. I think some of the first Indomitor kill teams we saw when the book was released, it's like let's slam as many plasma inceptors in there as we can, right? Because
yeah,
why wouldn't
exactly.
you?
Yeah,
Uh,
I think well, it was just Inceptors in general. Because even the Bolter Inceptors were amazing at the start.
mhm. And we're still
But
seeing that too. We see them in
yeah,
current lists. Yeah.
but
So
yeah, no, I'm from what I'm gathering from the different pages, Reddit, um, there was a couple podcasts that went out. I'm expecting about a 5 to 10-ish% drop on
ooh.
Space Marine units approximately.
But that's just for the base model, right? You're not taking into account this alleged change of free war gear.
That is true. I am not including because I don't know exactly what that means. If
Yeah.
that means like everything's free, like Death Guard, then that may be insane.
Well,
It may be too much. It may be okay. If it means we made most of the basic equipment free, but we included like, oh, this unit's las cannons went from 15 to 5.
okay. Yeah.
Okay, well that's.
Yeah. That's considerable. Like that is I don't want to take this at all to okay, maybe I will take this a bit, right? Like I think we kind of saw this with eliminators,
Yeah.
right? Like you saw eliminators just keep throughout ninth, they just kept dropping in points because folks weren't actively using them. And so now you have you know, you see a lot of the las fusel, well not a lot, but it like now they're not unheard of. You do see them. It's not surprising when you see them. But at the
Yeah.
start of ninth, it was pretty surprising if you ever saw one eliminator, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So radio free Armageddon is saying I want Marines to match fluff of being hard as fuck.
Well, and the way it's looking, based on the current meta change, the rumor that reserves are free, the Marine point costs, the sticky objectives for Marines,
Which we haven't
the
gotten to, and I think that's huge, but
yeah, yeah, that's
norm.
the loss of armor of contempt. Unfortunately, is just it's it's gonna hurt Marines. Period. But with the point drops, it may make them able to trade better,
Mm-hmm.
which was always the big problem with elite armies, is that when you're running an elite army, you don't want to trade. And a lot of the armies that were winning were those that can trade, like Sisters or Necrons or Harlequins. Like, hey, I'm going to throw this, you know, 80, 100 point unit into your 200 point unit, and I'm just going to trade it out. I'm already up 100 points now.
Yeah. Hmm. I just I mean, you're absolutely right. I'm just trying to think about like how that works with like sisters points because I heard Repentia are gonna go up a little bit. Uh, the biggest thing for them though is I heard that their secondaries are going to get a slight nerf, whatever that means. Um,
Um,
and secondaries right now, as we've seen, like Necrons are arguably a terrible codex compared to a lot of the new stuff, but their secondaries are so good that they're like the scourge of the mid tables. They're like going 4-1 5-1, and they're not winning tournaments, but they're definitely gatekeeping people out of the top tables because their secondaries are so good. Where
and
perhaps the army should be better and the secondaries less so.
and that is one of the things that I did hear was that the the new book for Arcs of Omen. I forget whether it was on the Warhammer community page or Tactical Tortoise or Auspex Tactics, one of the other sites that I was watching, and they mentioned that in Arcs of the Omen, every army will only have 3 secondaries, and all the secondaries are getting tweaked, which means from a player standpoint, that would mean that the Tyranid secondaries are going to get better because they were garbage. They were literally the only thing holding
Yeah.
that army back.
And even then, they weren't holding him back. That army is
No,
still kicked ass for months.
I know I did play them. Um, I went toe to toe with a lot of top people with that with Tyranids. So yeah, I'm well aware of how good they were. Um, but it's going to take armies like Sisters and Necrons, and there's a few others that were the secondaries were just so easy to get that it's not a thing anymore, you know? So we'll see how that turns out.
We will. We definitely will. Um, so we have Dorian Snyder joining the conversation. It looks like just recently, but they're talking as well about what I think we were just starting to peel the onion back on, and that is free wargear. We already discussed like if that means vast point drops or if that means like literally free wargear. Because if it's the
Oh,
latter, then I have a there's a player who's very good in my local meta. They're running guard right now, but um, the they have a lot of blood angels, and they said that in their list it's like a 465 point decrease for not paying for war gear. That's assuming
well,
all war gear is free, obviously, which would be absolutely insane because that means a nearly 25% point drop. So now his list can bring 25% more stuff, which
well,
is
you gotta
nuts.
remember with that, the actual army that is the best, the absolute best, if they do say no extras, everything's free, then the army that's gonna take the lead is gonna be Space Wolves. Um, they can put Terminators in all of their squads. They can put combi weapons on all of their Terminators. They literally will just flood the board with free war gear.
Can't we?
Um,
I mean, we can do that kind of as Deathwatch. You can put
but
all kinds of
Deathwatch is
crazy
up
stuff on
there.
our stuff. Yeah.
Deathwatch is up there, but it's not as good as it. Trust me, I've looked at it. I literally am sitting at the place I sent you a picture earlier today.
You did. You
My
did.
gaming table looked like somebody barfed GW books. Um, Space Wolves can outdo Deathwatch, but only slightly.
Yeah. It'll come down to secondaries, and it'll come down to the fact that almost everything we're bringing are troops,
Yeah, I mean, I
which
literally
is
sent you the picture
insane.
earlier.
Yep.
My
And you did.
table
Yep.
looked like GW just barfed on my gaming table.
I'll see if I can't get that onto the. Nope. I see one, two, three, four, five, six. I see six codices, whole bunch of notes, a tablet. Yep. Yeah, I get it, man. You're doing your research. It's almost like you're a competitive player or something.
I maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I said this at the beginning, but we have more viewers now. A list I have been wanting to run for a long time in my Death Watch. This is not assuming the AOR, which of course I want to talk about that too, because unfortunately we have 3 days, 4 days technically, until the AOR is kaput until we hear otherwise.
Well, that
But
is not official.
that is on. Isn't that on like it
It,
says you can run it until January 1st of 2023 unless another codex supersedes it or something is what the document said. I don't remember the exact wording now.
yeah, the official wording on it is it's probably gone, is what it's saying. So what they're probably going to do is they're going to probably re-release that and say what they want to remove from the game.
Well, I hope I don't have to buy another $40 book for 2 fucking pages. Because that's the AOR was really good. It was really fun. I really liked it. But man, like having to pay and carry around that book at tournaments just for 2 pages, I almost tore out those 2 pages just to save
Yeah,
myself a
yeah.
pound and a half of carrying shit around in a backpack.
What's funny is I have a buddy of mine here in Toledo, and what he does is he goes and he gets the spines cut for all of his books, and then has them rebound with just the army rules.
I was responding to PC in chat who said it's called Wahapedia. Don't spend uh,
The
the
$40.
money. And generally, I agree with you, and that totally flies with like friendly games and RTTs. I've never seen but GTs and above, you're gonna have to bring the book. Like that's just the way the cookie crumbles. Even though most of the time you're just gonna be bringing up Wahapedia on your phone to check, if a TO or another player says what's in your book, you have to pull out that book. So it
Yeah.
depends on how you play. If you just play Garage Hammer or if you go to the occasional RTT, just use Wahapedia. I would never say to do anything else. But if you're going to LVO, you bring your book. If you're going to like the London GT, you're bringing all your books. That's the way it goes. So they are. I know. I'm a software engineer. I'm all for like iterative processes and updates and patches. I understand. Nobody in chat is going to change my mind. It is silly that we rely on physical books. It is silly that GW relies on physical books that have to be, all those rules have to be tested, printed, shipped. Like it's awful. I agree with all of you, but I'm telling you, this is how it works at the moment. Like if you want to play the game, you got to bring your books.
Yeah, and it is, unfortunately, it is part of the game, and it's just like um it's just like the Warhammer app. I really would have loved, instead of them creating their own app, that they would have just bought Battlescribe, because that would have been much better. Something fell in my eye.
It's
But
what fell in your eye is the tears from the idea that Deathwatch will be good again. You're like, oh, so beautiful.
yeah, Gabriel, I do realize that it does say that the Army of Renown is valid until January 2023. However, like all digital documents, those things may change and have changed before in the past.
It's yeah.
But back to my Battlescribe
Sorry.
Warhammer app comment. Um, the issue is, like, everything has their issues. Battlescribe has their issues. I mean, heck, there was one weekend where the Warhammer app had um the one jump pack unit, the new Primaris suppressors. They were 0 points for a weekend.
Woo!
They were literally 0 points. You could bring a squad of 3 for 0 points.
I wish. I want suppressors to be good. Like I wish you could have brought them in Fortis kill teams. I think that would have been really fun. Or
Or
Spectrus kill
Indominus.
teams. But like
Yeah, or
aren't they
Indominus. Yeah, I agree.
aren't they Fortis armor though? Or they're um sorry, Tacticus of the Mark 10. But they
That's an
have the jump
excellent
pack on
question.
the back.
That's an excellent question. I
So I
don't know.
think they'd have to go in the Fortis kill team with the current like design paradigm, but um that's beside the point. I love them. I like the model. I think they're fun.
I agree.
At the time that I was thinking about sticking them in my list is when you did the math and you're like, oh man, they actually kill raiders like really well from
Yeah,
across the
they do.
board. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
they do.
um, yeah, they aren't Gravis. I think they're Tacticus. Anyway, yeah, the
I wish they
AOR.
were Gravis.
Ooh, yeah, I wish they were Gravis. But I mean, we have Inceptors for the fly guys, but I guess you could put like, what if we stuck 2 of the autocannons on the the Inceptors, right?
Yeah, I mean, I and a buddy of mine just texted me. Apparently he's got this on too. He was talking to me. He's like, "Imagine for Deathwatch bringing just 4 free frag cannons." I'm like, I don't even know if that would be a thing, you know?
Yeah, I don't even know if frag cannons. I don't know. They're
Frag
10 points
cannons,
right now, and they're still not good.
but their potential is there. It's just you don't want to pay for them.
Right. Absolutely. So, um, models are only available in the one SC. Yeah, I know. I bought mine off of eBay or something like that because there is no suppressor box available. Like you can't just walk down to your store and buy a box of suppressors. Um, I yeah, that's an interesting point that Gabriel just brought up about like Outriders. Outriders are so bad right now. When you consider the fact that they're 45 points and you compare them to the Votan bikes, they're just
You
you.
know, uh, I think one of the sites have them coming down like 10 points or 20 points for the squad. So I think they may be playable.
They are. I've seen them used to great effect to basically just move block because they are pretty tough. They
And
do have a
pretty
lot of
big.
wounds. They are very big with their and you can transhuman them. So like
Yeah.
3 or 5 of those stuck in like an alleyway is going to make somebody's life very annoying.
Yeah.
you know. Um,
Yeah.
but when you compare them to how hard like the Votan bikes hit, oof, it's real hard to say that they're worth the current 45 points a model. Or is it
No,
40? Is it 40 or
and the
45?
I don't know.
It's a
I
lot.
got my books near me, but I don't want to start reading through a book. Um, no,
Fair.
and you're completely correct. I mean, like the Votan bikes are obsec. They move 14. They get a pregame move, and they have like 7 or 9 shots each. They're just dumb. Um, so I think they're like 40 or 45. I'm like, yeah, if I had a choice, I'm gonna bring those bikes over Outriders.
100%. Yeah.
And that's another rumor from Arcs of the Omen is that you will be able to play Votan with Marines.
It's a good transition. The problem there, I think, is merely that you lose, well, potentially. With the current souping rules, you lose um
Doctrines.
assuming they get a rule like Harlequins or whatever where you can bring a patrol and not break your army rules, you still break the rules for the patrol that you're bringing, so they're gonna lose judgment tokens, and that just with the current rules, we could find out that that's totally different, and that really blunts Votan like hardcore if they don't
Yeah,
get their judgment rules.
yeah. I'm gonna show my age in this game. Squats deserve and should only be played where they give judgment tokens. And if you're not giving out 9 or 10 of them a turn, you're just playing the army wrong.
We have a question about Kill Team Cassius, and I agree with everybody in the chat. It is amazing. I mean, Deathwatch in general is amazing if you just want to kit bash stuff and throw on whatever 3D printed bits or what extra like Space Marine bits that you have. Like Deathwatch is the army to play. Kill Team Cassius has a lot of really cool models. Their actual rules are pretty shit. And if you do run Kill Team Cassius, you're stuck where you're like, okay, I have one heavy flamer, one stormbolter, I have one combi melta, I have one combi flamer, and you're just stuck like running through 37 different roles, and your opponent is gonna just like walk away from the table because it's gonna take you 20 minutes just to shoot that unit.
Yeah, don't buy Kill Team Cassius because you want Kill Team Cassius. Buy Kill Team Cassius for those really cool unit model conversions that'll get you the extra hobbying points if you are on the hobby track at all.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean,
I'm a big hobbyer. I just bought a 3D printer. I'm doing all kinds of neat stuff with
ooh,
bases and everything now. I'm not gonna lie to you. if you have a 3D printer or if you want a 3D printer, go buy one because instead of paying $30 to $50 for a set of custom bases, spend $5 for the STLs and just print your army. I have a set of lava bases for my demons. Looks amazing. I spent $5 on the STL.
I have a bunch of 3D printed guard right here because I was playing around with the idea of souping in guard with my Grey Knights, but now that we don't know what's gonna happen with soup, it's kind of a waste. But yeah.
I'm uh I'm anti 3D printing models. I don't like to do that.
Mhm.
I do like to print like very specific
Bits.
um showcase models or bits, and I'm all in on bases. 100% all in on bases.
That's fair.
I I don't like to do um models themselves unless they have crap models like the ATVs that I showed earlier.
Or Drago.
Um I yeah, yeah, and I also printed flamers for my Thousand Suns
Yeah.
army
The
because the old flamers look like garbage.
Yeah, and if you're playing Deathwatch, like not to get on the 3D print scene, but I can go ahead and print like 40 Deathwatch pauldrons in 2.5 hours, and that would cost me something like 200 or $250 if I go buy the Deathwatch sprues. Like it's
Exactly.
just that's the I usually don't print whole models either, if I'm honest. I wanted to do this because I like painting guard and I wanted to run them in a couple like friendly games. I wouldn't run these at like a big tournament or whatever. I do like the Games
Well,
Workshop models. They are beautiful, they're well built, they are like easy to put together. Um, but, you know, like AOC came out and I took all of my Deathwatch Terminators that had Power Fists. I 3D printed teeny tiny chainsword um, blades. I painted them up and glued them on to the bottom, and I'm like, yay! Now I have chain fists, right? And that's not something you could do if you didn't have a 3D printer.
well, here's the thing, okay? I am I have a store that is really close to my house,
Mm-hmm.
and this store has been super supportive. They let me run a event every year called the Glass City GT. We're gonna have, it looks like we're gonna be at about 80 to 100 people this year, which is horrible since I am less than a week away from having it, or no, just over a week away from having it. And I'm not really prepared. But this store has done everything it can to further the community. And one of the rules I put in place for Glass City is yes, you're allowed to 3D print bits and showcase models, but not armies because I want you to support this guy. This guy is letting me run an event here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the big thing, support your local stores. Do that because they're the ones that are building your communities.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I just I 3D printed a bunch of like Lehman Russ executioner plasma guns
Oh, who didn't?
because because you can't like you have to buy the Lehman Rush Demolisher box specifically if you want the plasma cannon.
Yes.
If you buy the battle tank, the Lehman Russ battle tank, that's a different box and it doesn't come with the plasma gun. And I was pissed because I bought the last Lehman Russ at the store. I'm like,
And,
fuck this. I am 3D printing the gun because I'm not gonna go out and buy a another $60 box and then only have one plasma gun. That
and,
stuff's
and
annoying.
Dorian just said it. Core of a GW model, then do whatever you want. I don't even care
Yes.
if you
Yeah.
mohawks on everybody. I don't care.
Yeah. I think that's great. But at the same time, like if you want to play with some stuff, you don't have proxies or whatever. I don't know. It
Oh,
doesn't
100%.
bother me in Garage Hammer if you come with the 3D printed army, but I can understand entirely with what you're saying of like support your local businesses, especially if they're helping just blow up the whole community and make it better and more inclusive, right? And play more games.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
yeah,
I
I
mean,
get it.
I'm not gonna lie. There's been times where we've been trying out a new army and we put Lego bits on the table, man,
Yeah. Oh man, I remember playing D&D where like my my character was a Lego guy, like with a the old fashioned like wooden like blunderbuss, because it's like that's the closest thing I have, but I want to play D&D, so I get it.
Oh, I get it. I get it 100%.
Way different when it's one model and not 60 or 80 models, but yeah. Um,
Yeah.
man. Okay. How do I rein this back in? Let's go back over to the list of changes. So, Armor of Contempt's going away. I just want
That
to
is the
tell
rumor. Yes.
yeah, okay. I should preface this again because we have more viewers. This is all conjecture. Everything could change. All of this could be fake. This could be a fake leak for all we fucking know. Um anyway, AOC going away does not surprise me. When AOC was released, it felt like a band-aid. It was a band-aid. We all know it. It helped. It also completely assed over some factions like Grey Knights. No high AP shooting in that entire army.
All right. Also, Armor Contempt basically just killed orcs. Orcs went away.
I remember how excited everyone was, like, oh, there goes Choppas, -1 AP, super cool. Oh, wait, never mind. Effectively doesn't matter for most armies, because they're just going to ignore the first spip of AP anyway, right? It's
And
probably not a fake leak. Like, it probably isn't. Otherwise, I wouldn't even be having this conversation, because there
it,
was a fake leak earlier this week, and it was obviously awful.
well, not to drag some current events into this, but there has been things on major content creator sites where there has been some rough and tumble comments being made about various people within the community and their contracts and their relationships being injured because of this. I don't know if injured's the word I want to use. Cal and Ellie, though, to bring up that point, there are no more playtesters as far as I know. There are still content creators, however.
Yeah, so at the very beginning of the stream, we talked about how the play testers are gone and have been for almost a year, but content creators still get a lot of the codices, the box sets, all that stuff early. So, like Ninjon will release a video the day that a box goes live of how he painted up his guard army or whatever, right? Like, and he
Yeah,
can't,
and Scary,
yeah,
Scary does some stuff.
yeah. I mean, you're not wrong. It's not very different, except that playtesters got stuff way earlier than the content creators. So the potential for leaks was way higher. But yeah, I mean, anytime anybody's passionate about anything, it doesn't matter what it is. It could be if you're into car racing and you learn that your favorite like motorsports aftermarket company is making a new turbo kit or something, right? Like you're gonna want to leak that shit. It doesn't like there's always gonna be that like that threat. Video games see this all the time. There are entire groups that just go data mine and try to find all the latest patch information way before it's actually released. So,
Yeah.
play testers do have more to lose in theory, yeah. Because if you ever find out who leaked it, then you lose your playtest. I assume you probably get blacklisted from Games Workshop events, um,
Well,
but I
to
don't
to
know.
be more to be more direct on that answer is when we were playtesting, we all had to sign NDAs, and it was very like hush hush. It was very um like they were reaching out. GW reached out to Adepticon, LVO, and Nova for 3 groups of playtesters, and I think they also reached out to the London GT people.
Hmm.
Um,
What a
but
fascinating process.
when they reached out to us, they gave us the opportunity to help them make their game better. A game that we love, we play, we enjoy. I mean, I've been playing this since it was, first edition. I remember when it was horrible. It was the worst game ever. I even played through 7th. Um, and the ability to, through the Adepticon group, give a quick shout out to them. You know, they brought me on and they allowed me to help them play test through 8th. Um, I got to see all the 8th edition rules. I went to tournaments and I was goofing up rules left and right while it was still 7th. Um, Same thing happened when 9th was being tested, and I would goof up rules and I'd be like, oh, I must have just got that wrong. I think I got yellow carded like twice over the course of a couple months because I was just getting rules wrong. But it's so awesome to be able to help a game that you love get better and be more fun for an entire community.
Yeah, I can see that. Right? Like that's I mean, why else would you accept being a playtester anyway? So you can leak some rules early and get your 15 minutes of fame? That seems like a real waste of an opportunity.
Oh, 100%. That's a giant waste. Like, why not just wait the 2 months, 3 months, 4 months? It'll be out anyway, and you can just talk to everybody about it. And it's so much cooler to just be behind the scenes and help them make things awesome.
Yeah. I just I I mean Cal and Allie are already talking about a lot of things that we already talked about. Like this could be an engineered release. It could be, leaked, right? Quote unquote leaked, right? Just to drum up YouTube videos like this one, right? Who knows?
Exactly. Yeah, it could
Yeah.
be. It could be something where they're trying to figure out what people think. Because, I mean, look at what happened with Votan. Votan got leaked. Uh, I think that was leaked by a content creator or the publisher. I don't remember which. But
Yeah.
when it was leaked, people started looking at it and went, this ain't right. And then they went, oh, yeah, this is way too strong. Let's tone this back, tone this back, tone this back.
Yeah. Um and just to kind of wrap up the leak conversation, remember that all throughout this process, anybody could leak anything at any time. You have a summer intern who works at GW, gets their hands on, some alpha rules, can leak that a year before the rules are supposed to go live. You can have a publisher leak it. We've had game stores leak stuff. Like I think when the Grey Knights Codex wasn't out yet, there was the first big leak was the new Grey Knights weapon profiles, and it's because a store somewhere got a hold of the new Strike Squad box. They opened it up, looked at the stats on the instructions, and went, "Holy shit, this is way different than the old ones. Let's leak it." Right? So, and that's not even really a leak. That's somebody accidentally shipped out a new box to a store when they should have shipped out the old box. You know what I mean? Like the models are the
Yes,
same, but they updated the data sheets. So there's a huge line of responsibility there, and any part of it could be leaked. So it isn't necessarily always playtesters or always publishers or always a disgruntled employee. There's a million people that could leak this stuff. So that's why it's insane that the government can keep any secrets at all. To me. Uh, but that's getting into politics, and I'm not doing that. So I want to just shut down the playtest conversation or the leaks conversation. I want to move into something that when I read this, I was like, holy shit, why didn't I think of this? This is amazing. Giving Space Marines just sticky objectives for troops, assuming that sticks with troops only. My God, I hope it's only troops. Um, that is an incredible advantage in the Space Marine pocket.
that allows a low model count elite army to say, hey, you have no deep strikers? Cool. I own this objective. I'm leaving to go reinforce the rest of my army. That is insanely good. That's like next level good.
Yeah, no, it's really, really good. I mean, I play Grey Knights, right? That's one of my main armies. And even when I'm building lists for Deathwatch, I'm like, okay, there are missions where you have to hold two in your backfield or like really close to your backfield. So I need at least one squad I can combat squad to just kind of leave dudes on the objective so I can actually score primary. This just pretty much wipes that. Not for Grey Knights because you need them behind for, you know, pur- purifying ritual, but that's beside the point. That is an amazing opportunity to just keep scoring your primary and not feel bad for having like 100 or 150 point unit sitting behind doing nothing, which isn't true. They're scoring you points, like they are doing something, but and that's how you win the game is the points. But it feels bad when you see like your opponent playing orcs rush forward in a green tide and leave behind, you know, two 10-man groups of grots or 20-man groups of grots, which cost effectively nothing, right?
Well, and that's kind of like the assault intercessors, I guess would be the common marine unit that is left behind. It's a, 5-man unit. They all have chainswords and pistols, and they just sit there and protect that one objective. But if they're troops, it becomes sticky, and now you can just suddenly go, I already have that. I'm going to go assault these guys over here. And what, 5-man squad is what, 21 attacks? That's
Yeah.
it
I
doesn't
mean, it's
matter what
all,
the AP
yeah.
is.
You're going to get some wounds through. That's for sure.
Yeah.
um, you can teleport around as Grey Knights, but you still need a Psyker on an objective to cast Purifying Ritual, and that is still our best secondary. Now, the secondaries are supposed to be reworked, so maybe we lose it, whatever. But I still also I've wanted to play around with the idea of running just as many strike squads as possible for Grey Knights because you get Hammer Hand, which is reroll all wounds, right?
Yep.
If you don't need that, you can smite. You can always spend 1 CP to do both if you have like a clutch smite that has to, to go off to kill like a screening unit or something. You have a lot of options, but as it stands right now, you do not want to not cast Purifying Ritual. So you got to leave someone behind to actually do that, which might be a Tech Marine or Crow or whatever. Like those are great options too. But then you're using up HQ slots to just cast Purifying Ritual, and that also feels kind of bad. But
Yeah.
yeah. Geez. So okay, Armor of Contempt going away. I think we just started to poke at it, but how do you feel about that? It's a band aid. Like, how's that? I think in the current meta, if they just removed AOC, we'd see whatever last remnants of Space Marine armies fall by the wayside entirely. You like no more Blood Angels doing well or anything; they just get blasted off the board. But how does that generally make you feel with the loss of armor of a contempt?
Armor of Contempt was it was a bad band-aid. It wasn't even a good band-aid. Um, and it created more problems than it actually solved. You ended up with Thousand Suns being able to double stack it. You ended up with Death Guard getting -1 to damage plus that. I mean, there was so many weird little things that kind of got twisted because of Armor of Contempt that created weird army components that were not meant to ever be. Um, and you can see that because like the main Marine list that came out of it, like Blood Angels. No offense to Blood Angels players, but that list was never supposed to be a thing. No one was ever supposed to run 21 Sanguinary Guard. It wasn't supposed to be a thing.
Ah, but now we can raise you 9 more, sir.
No, you can't because they only get squads of 10 and you only get 3. Rule of
Yeah,
3.
right. So 21 plus 9 is 30 for 3 full 10 mans.
All right.
I did some math there. Very small math, but I did some math there.
All right. I'll let you have that.
Yay. Yeah, I mean, on one hand, I loved how tanky it made certain units. You know, like an Indomitor squad in cover with the fortified with contempt and AOC was just like get wrecked. You're never going to kill this whole unit. It gets even dumber when you think about Grey Knight Paladins with armor armored resilience, because they are at
Yep.
a literal -1. With
Yeah,
Tide
the
of
only people.
Shadows in cover, armor resilience, they had a -1. So you had to hit them with AP4 just to get them off their 2-up.
And or ignore cover.
Or ignore cover, right. But, that's just bonkers, right?
Well, you also have to look. A lot of the big armies that are going to come out of this strong could already do that. Iron Hands, for example. Iron Hands has a psychic power for +1 to saves, and then the shields come back, so that's +1 to saves. And if you're in
Yeah,
cover, that's
that's
+1
true.
to saves. So now you got a Terminator with a what, -2 save because of the shield, the power, and the cover.
And
And
then they also have a just native 6-up feel no pain in Iron Hands, right? Like that's their
yeah,
super doctrine or whatever.
that's their army trait. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. They just have a 6-up. The whole army has a feel no pain.
Yeah, and then you go to another side of it. Imperial Fist can actually do it better. We were figuring it out today. If you use two strats on them, one is a game long strat that you can only use once a game, and the other one's a if you're on an objective strat, you can literally get to a -3 with a Terminator
With AOC?
without AOC.
Oh wow. So -4 with a effectively -4 with AOC.
Yeah, so I mean there are armies that can still do that. It's just they're now the armies that were supposed to be able to do that.
Makes sense. It's not just a blanket. Yeah, I mean, like I said, we all knew that was a band-aid.
Yeah, that was 100% a band-aid.
Yeah.
And Dorian, you are completely right. Corvus's starting off the board suck.
Yep.
Um, I remember when 8th edition dropped. I ran 5 Corvus Black Stars at ATC. It was the most hilarious list ever because one of the big lists that everyone was running was 5 Storm Ravens, and the Corvus Black Stars got an additional -1 to be hit by any flying unit, so they were actually a good counter to the Storm Raven list, and nobody wanted to play against me, and I always got paired out to something weird. It was a fun time at ATC that year.
Aaron, no, you should be proud that you asked for and received a Corvus Black Star for Christmas because they are still the best looking flyer in the game, hands down. They are fun to
Yes,
paint and they are
yes,
super cool. You will never put it on the table if you want to compete competitively with the rules that they currently have.
that's not true.
Really?
I think that's playable.
You think they're playable now? Because I saw a rumor that they're supposed to lose like 10 or 15 points,
They
which
were
would bring
one
them
of the
down to like
cheapest
150 or
flyers.
whatever.
They were one of the cheapest flyers in the game already, and I heard that they were losing 20 to 25.
Whoa, 20 to 25. I guess I better buy one more.
I
Too
I,
bad
I
las
still have
cannons are still
5.
D6 damage.
But yeah,
Sorry.
again, that's what I heard. I would still run at, I don't know, in a fun game, I would 100% run one at
Hmm.
least. In an RTT, I may run one. In a big dog event, I have too much stuff I got to think about because of, once you get into a GT level event, um, like Rocky Top or LVO or a couple other events where you're looking at 9 rounds, you can't have anything in your army that is not optimized or you
That's
will
true.
lose.
Yeah. I mean, that's just, you know, I know quite a few people in my local scene that go to NRTT just because they're like, look, this is the fastest way and easiest way I can get in 3 games in one day, right? I want
Hmm.
to try out this goofy SKU list, or it's just a list of the models that I like, and I know it isn't good, but I want to play it anyway. And you do have players like that at these big events too, but those players aren't the ones that are going for, top 50. At like LVO, landing in the top 100 means you're in the top 10% of everyone there, right? Like
Yeah.
that's and to claw your way up even to that point, you have to do what Jason is saying, where you can't bring one model just because you like it unless it already fits into your list and is optimized.
Yeah, time guy, to answer your question, the bikes are amazing in Deathwatch. They are one of the most broken things in the army. The fact that they basically gain the ability to use breachable
Yeah,
is
for
dumb.
idiots.
It's dumb. You bring a unit with like, hey, look, I'm 5 Deathwatch veterans and 5 outriders. I put 4 outriders and a veteran in one squad, 1 outrider in the other squad. The bikes can drive through ruins.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna catch somebody off guard and hit them all day long.
Yeah.
The bikes are amazing. Side note though, attack bikes are not allowed in Deathwatch. That's why the ATVs are amazing.
I'm super sad that the attack bites aren't allowed. Yeah, so Deathwatch, if I remember right, we don't get Devastator squads, and I think that's a lore thing where like Devastator squads are where the first people raised from scouts are put into Devastator squads, and Deathwatch are supposed to be all veterans, so you don't get Devastator squads, we don't get attack bikes, and we don't get scouts. And
I
I
know we don't
can't
get
I
scouts.
can't remember the other thing that we. There's something else we don't get.
I literally just grabbed my Space Marine book because I don't remember
Yeah,
either. I know we don't get scouts and I know we don't get attack bikes.
we don't get Devastator squads either, which is sad. But I mean, I
Um,
get it for the lore reason, but like at the same point, if you're a veteran and you're already like good at heavy weapons, they're like, hey man, we really need some meltas up in here. I can't imagine a Deathwatch veteran being like, no, I don't want to win, right? But you know, whatever.
all
Um,
right, so yeah, you're not allowed to take assault squads because they have to take Vanguard vets. Attack bike squads because they're not allowed. They only have to take ATVs apparently.
yep.
Bike squads because you have to take Deathwatch bike squads.
Okay.
Devastator squads. Stern Guard veteran for some reason. And tactical squads and scouts.
I guess I guess the Ultramarines never give the Stern Guard out to the Death Watch. They're like, no,
Yeah,
these are ours. You cannot have them.
you can't have the garbage.
Yeah, they can have maybe after they come back from the Death Watch, then they're made Stern Guard later, right? Like,
Yeah, maybe. There you go.
excellent, yeah, excellent job. Um, yeah. Anyway, I like. I'm sad about the court. Like, I don't know. Flyers not being able to start on the board is really. I mean, that was always an option anyway. You could always start it outside.
Yeah,
But you had to pay a CP to do it. Now it's free,
it is
and
free.
it has to happen. Which
It
and then
does.
there was a stratagem the Deathwatch books gave us, Shroud Field, which was an attempt to make it so that your flyer didn't get shot off the board turn one, but it also cost 2 CP. So no one that I know ever used it. And obviously it's a stratagem, so you can't use it if you bring more than one Corvus. You can only use it once. Uh, yeah, I kind of agree with you. It's more of a transport than it is an assault craft, but at the same time, it does have pretty heavy weapons for a transport. So yeah, and I'll say it again. I hate that las cannons are D6 damage because if I don't miss and I do wound, I guarantee you I'm rolling 1 or 2 for damage. Never see that sweet 5 or 6.
No, it never happens.
Yeah. Um,
I do want to apologize to chat. My iPad just died, so I can't read any of the comments anymore
it's okay.
unless I figure out how to do it on my phone.
I try to be pretty good about reading them out loud if they require us to talk, but yeah. It's a flying razorback on crack, man. It fits
Oh yeah.
more it fits more units, it's faster, and it has way more guns. Because you know, it has the rockets or the missiles as well as the twin las cannon. Um, it can have hurricane bolters as well if you pay for them. I love it. I do. I love that model. I wish it was super competitive. Um, I'm curious though, how do you see that working in a list now, Jason? Assuming no AOR, obviously.
Um, so the Corvus, depending on how you load it out, I'm a big fan of just the bucket of dice loadout. Um, and what I would do with it is when it comes in on turn 2, I would use it to clear the garbage that is basically preventing me from making that one key assault.
Okay.
And then I would probably also keep an assault unit in it so that they could also get out and make another key assault.
Yeah. That's the way I've seen them played, is like there's always a big assault unit in it. Which makes it even more of a threat because if I know what they're gonna do turn one is they're gonna fly it up like into my deployment zone or something, right? And then in turn two they're gonna get all their guys out. So I have to kill it. And if I kill it on my turn, they fall out in my deployment zone or in the midboard where I can see them with my other units, and then I get to shoot them or charge them for free. Um, I I just don't I don't know. In the current rule set, I don't see how flyers get particularly good without making them also bullshit. you know?
Well, we're going to have to, this is going to take a little bit. These changes across the board are wide reaching. I expect to see Guard and Knights to take the lead role as what's winning events. So that means that the meta will change to deal with heavy armor. So I expect a lot of eradicators to come about.
Mm-hmm.
I expect a lot of plasma inceptors to come about. I
Yep.
expect it to be a really heavy anti-armor meta
Yep.
for most people because
Like
knights are a
guard.
really tough army. And from what every website and Reddit and leak post podcast that I've listened to, they've all said that knights didn't get touched. Well, knights were already like a 4-2, 5-1 army on a 6-round event. So you're looking at, I'm now going to deal with these guys, and the top 3 guys are dead
Yeah.
or hurt. So there's a good chance that they're just not going to be a thing, but the knights are still up there, and guard is coming out. And I don't know if anyone's played against anyone with the new codex, but those stupid plasma Lehman Russes are insanely powerful,
And
and
they're
everyone's
so
bringing 3.
hard to kill. Three. So
Yeah.
all right, I don't know about Arc of Omens, but there's a list I'm playing around with right now using the Nephilim rule set. And I start with almost no CP, which sucks, but it's Grey Knight infantry backed up by 4 Lehman Russes. 3 of them plasma, one of them with the Gatekeeper relic.
No,
Um,
you got the wrong. You got if you're gonna do the gatekeeper, that and I'm not saying that's bad, but you need to do the no invuln one first, and then the gatekeeper as the second choice.
okay. That's fair. I mean I can always change up my list more, but I mean
Yes,
the list will
the
probably go away in a week anyway, but
the three plasma Lehman Russes are correct. 100%. Those things are just dumb. Because you go the turrets one, and then you do both the sponsons as plasmas, and it just erases things. It is so dumb.
I was using
Um,
heavy plasma or heavy flamer sponsons because no one wants to get Overwatch by that. And then if you play the regimental doctrine that adds +4 range to range weapons, you have 16-inch flamers, which is stupid.
I agree. I do agree. But I don't see that as necessary. Especially if you're playing Grey Knights, nobody wants to get close to you anyway because you're just going to attack them with 2 damage melee weapons. So nobody wants to get close to you anyway.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah.
So just put plasmas on there.
I'm not saying there isn't room for improvement in this list, but that was my general thought. Oh, and then I also run the regimental doctrine that makes the tanks 5 models, and then there's the order to give them obsec. So you can shove
Yes.
up like a Lehman
Yeah.
Russ that's T8, 13 wounds, um, obsec 5 models. That shit is just like people like look at you like what am I supposed to do about that? And
The
I'm like,
other
I
one
don't
that's
care.
really big. Yeah, the other one that's really big is the plus to movement one.
Yeah. +2 movement. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
you do
solid.
plus the plus to movement and everything counts as 5. Yeah, it's so big.
Yeah. So instead of diving into this rabbit hole too much more, our point that we're making is guard is very good. And this is in a soup list, so imagine how much better they are mono faction. So yes, you're right. We're gonna see a lot more anti-tank. We're gonna see a lot more eradicators, like you said. We're gonna see a lot more plasma inceptors, like you said. We're just in general gonna see a lot more Melta and plasma on the field to deal with those hard-hitting, high toughness units. During that
Yep.
RTT that I won just a couple weeks ago, I ran into a Chaos Knight player, and if it weren't for the fact that he knew as little about Grey Knights as I knew about his Chaos Knights, I don't think that I would have won that game at all. Because it was that, I think I won by like 3 points or something at the last turn of the game. It was insanely close. Um, and it's because Grey Knights bring no high strength, high damage shooting by themselves. If you turn off Empiric Amplification, you only have one Dread Knight. You can bring one of their guns up to strength 9, -3
Yep.
AP.
Yep.
2 damage still. 3 damage if you got off Empiric Amplification. And that's not threatening. That's why I was like, okay, in my Grey Knights list, how do I make my Grey Knights bring that? And it's like, okay, I got to bring guard tanks. I have to. Or Knights. Like, those are my two options for high strength, high damage, long range shooting.
Well, and again, if we just talk about the general future of the meta of the game, I can almost with certainty tell you that going forward, Knights and Guard are going to be the main thing we're going to have to deal with,
Mm-hmm.
which means we have to bring anti-tank. And if we bring too much anti-tank, that means that the horde lists are going to
Yep.
overrun us. So you also have to bring something with extra firepower. So I would suggest, me personally, I like the Gladiator. I think it's called the Gladiator tank.
Yeah, there's the Gladiator and there's the Gladiator Reaper, which has like all the like mini guns,
Yeah,
tons
yeah,
of.
I like
I
the
think it's like 36 shots just by itself or something.
yeah the Reaper, and then the Valiant's the one that is probably going to make its debut in the meta here shortly with the 2 multi meltas and 2 Laz Talons.
Yeah, and then there's the oh god, is it the Lancer that has the big destroyer?
Yeah, but
The
the Lancer's got one big gun and a whole bunch of garbage guns. It's not
Yeah,
really
yeah.
not
It's
really
like
impressive.
it's like 2 shots, strength 12, -4, 3 damage or something, which isn't terrible, but when you consider that's 2 shots.
Yeah, where you can take the
Yeah.
Valiant and you get 4 shots from multi meltas and 2 shots or 4 shots from Laz Talons.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. So it'll be neat to see gladiators on the table. I always loved the Gladiator Reaper, like the idea that it's basically a floating Bradley with 2 Bushmasters on it and then 2 side guns as well is just insane to me. Like that's a lot of devastation, but with no invul or anything. They were in the current meta really easy to kill. But if I can
Yeah.
trade 180 point, let's say that they drop the points, like if I can trade 180 point gladiator for a knight or an entire squad of hormagaunts, right? Because like you said, if the meta switches to high anti tank, then you're gonna have people that just run skew lists to fuck with you, and you're gonna see 180 racks. You're gonna see,
Yep.
180 guardsmen. You're gonna see these, you're gonna see the Carnifax. Well, is it the Carnifax that poops out gaunts?
No, that's the
The Termagon.
Turvagon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. It's like,
The
so you're gonna.
Carnifex is basically a dreadnought.
Gotcha. Yeah. And you can bring them in units of 3, not
Yes,
1.
you can.
Yeah. So I think that would, yeah, I think that'll be interesting. Gabriel just brought up a cool point about the Storm Speeder Thunderstrike could be good.
The
Because
The
that's
problem with those
a storm speeder, right?
the problem with those new speeders. Now, don't get me wrong on these. They are some of the better. Like the old storm speeders are pretty much garbage. They're just outdated. They're not even worth considering. The new storm speeders, if they come down in points, they will 100% see play.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't come down enough or they don't come down at all, they'll still be sitting on people's shelves.
That's actually an excellent point, man. Like both Gabriel's and yours, because like I have one. I don't know if you guys can see up here, but this is my um pile of shame. It's all here. One of those is a storm speeder, and I've never built it because I'm like, why? In my Deathwatch, I'm gonna run the AOR, and you couldn't bring them, but
Yep.
they move 16. Their
Mm-hmm.
toughness 6. They
10
have
wounds.
10 wounds. The Thunder Strike has 2 shots, heavy 2, strength 9, -3. The unfortunate thing is they're D6 damage, so that is
And one of
swingy.
them
That is swingy as fuck. But they
one of them
also,
hits on twos.
that's right. Yeah, the Thunder Strike actually does hit on 2s. That's thank you for that, because I would have looked right past that, guys. Thank you. I would have assumed 3s.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
just
it,
Thunderstrike.
It also has a Storm Fury missile for strength 10 -3. It's only one shot, but d6 damage. And then it also can take the Icarus rocket pod. It's twin as well. So
No, it comes with it.
it's 2d3 shots, strength 7 -2, or -1, 2 damage. And it's blast, which is interesting because this storm speeder by itself is kind of playing against horde and playing against heavy tanks, which is neat.
True. And the issue with this is again, they're T6 with 3 up armor and 10 wounds.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking at basically the equivalent of a squad of Marines. It basically,
Yeah.
because you can bring a tactical squad. I mean, they're not T5 or 6, but they are 10 wounds.
Mm-hmm.
They do have a 3 up save, and you can give them 1 special and 1 heavy weapon plus a couple bolters. Is it worth it to bring this over 5 more guys that are OBSEC?
Yeah. Well, in Deathwatch, I don't know, because the
Or
thing
maybe
is,
10 more guys, depending on how much these cost.
they,
You see the point?
yeah, absolutely, but they fill different roles. Like so you're not wrong, but this thing flies and it moves 14,
Well, the ATVs move 14.
but they don't fly and they can't go through. They can't go through buildings, which means you're more. Not
Likely
to
to.
say ATVs are bad, okay? I'm not. I'm just saying, like, anytime I play Eldari and I'm like, holy shit, everything in this army that isn't infantry flies, I get super jealous, right? Because like
Oh, yeah. Who
my
doesn't?
rhino, doesn't fly. It's pretty fast. It's toughness 7. That's nice, but it doesn't fly.
Drop pods fly.
That's true, but we can't put Devastator squads in them.
Well, true, because you can't take Devastator squads.
Right. I've played around with making a Deathwatch Proteus team that's just like all combi flamers and in furnace heavy bolters, and you drop them down out of a drop pod, and that's fun. But
Yeah.
after they shoot one turn, they're dead.
Oh, yeah.
That whole unit is dead. There's nothing you can do to make that unit live. So
No.
you want to drop it, you want to throw buffs on it, and you want it to like kill something large. But going back to what we were just saying, if the meta shifts to guard tanks and knights, the flamers aren't gonna, without an auto wound strat from the like AOR, that's dead in the water. Bringing a bunch of flamers is fun, it's cool, but it's not good.
Well, it's the same thing with the Thunderstrike speeder, because let's talk just the anti-tank end of it.
Mm-hmm.
You have 3 shots with standard Marine, I realize it hits on 2s, but with standard Marine ballistic skill, that means only 2 of them hit. And going against any type of tank, only 1 of them wounds.
It's
And the
true.
new Lehman Russes are 2+ saves, which means 1 out of 3 times you don't get through.
You don't get anything through. Yeah. And then you
And then
just have
on
100 and
average,
yeah.
it only does 4 damage, which doesn't even bracket a Lehman Russ. And that Lehman Russ is going to take that speeder and throw it in the dumpster and look for something else to eat.
Yep. And then you don't have yeah. So you almost have to play cagey with your anti-tank, which kind of sucks because you want your anti-tank to shoot. You want them to be doing
Exactly.
as much damage as possible. Which brings me to the point I've been waiting to make this entire time. It's been an hour and a half. Look at how patient I am. Deathwatch, heavy motherfucking Thunderhammers. You can make a
Yeah.
Proteus kill team. You can bring 5 Vanguard vets. You can give every single one of those guys heavy Thunderhammers. You can hide them. They're very fast. They fly. You can stick into ruins. You can countercharge with them. You're hitting for 4 damage. Strength
Yeah,
8,
they're
-3, -4 if you're in Assault Doctrine.
they're
They are
money.
gnarly. You're one-shotting entire groups of Death Guard Terminators without
And
even batting a fucking
Raveners
eyelash.
and Warriors and yeah, no, I was very intently looking at Deathwatch today because I have Deathwatch models. I don't have Space Wolf models. And you're
Hey now.
100% correct.
Hey now.
Uh, well, I'm going to LVO again this year, so
Yeah.
I need a list that is LVO. And the heavy Thunderhammers, I can't not wiggle them into my list. Like every time I look at them, I'm like, man, I need at least 2 of these, maybe 4, maybe 8. I just keep on like
Yeah.
they keep wiggling their way in, and something for you know you've always talked to me when we've talked about this. Your channel is more for the newer players. It's more for, I mean, yes, it's Deathwatch and Grey Knights because that's your love. But if you
It's
are
one of my
making a
loves.
list,
I have many loves.
40K loves, how about that? um, but if you're making a list and you keep on finding something that has to be in there for you, then put it in there. It's meant to be there. It's the way you play. It's the way that you are as a person. It's the tactics you'll use, and it will make your army just better. Because if you play to the way you play, no matter what I say, I mean, yes, I was last season I was number 2 Deathwatch player in the world. I was close. Got beat out by some guy from England. He was good guy. I think I met him at LVO. Um, but if you find something that just fits the way you play, man, don't listen to anybody else. You'll find a way to make it work for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's yeah. The heavy Thunderhammer is a piece of tech that no other army in the game has. It is Deathwatch only, hands down.
Yep.
Yeah, you can kind of sort of swing some warlord traits and get a normal Thunderhammer up to being kind of close to what it is, but you can't. It's especially that's only on one unit. You can stick these on any Vanguard vets. You can stick them on Black Shields and you can stick them on Proteus
Oh, you can put them on black
Sergeants.
shields?
Yes, you can, but you don't get the extra. So you do get the weapon skill of 2, but you don't get the extra attack for dual wielding weapons. So most folks just put a normal Thunderhammer on the Black Shield. Um, but yes, to answer Aaron's question, normal veterans cannot, or you can take 2 per 5 man. I think it's something like that. It might be 1 per 5 man or 2 per 5 man. But the Vanguard vets can take them on all of their units. Every single one of them can actually take
Yep.
that. And what's cool, like playing to the way that I was playing Deathwatch when their ninth book hit, is what you do is you make a Proteus kill team, 10 men, 5 Vanguard vets, 5 normal dudes. You give the normal dudes shotguns. You give the Vanguard vets heavy Thunderhammers. You combat squad them. The Van vets move 12, they fly. Um, they get, I think they get the Melta Bomb. So if you really need to kill like a Lehman Russ that has 2 wounds left or whatever, there you go. because guard has no defenses against any mortal wounds.
Nope.
And then you have the guys with assault shotguns that are flamers. If they get charged, they can advance everywhere. They're obsec. In this new meta, they might even have sticky, right? Like, so you're bringing out the best of what Deathwatch offers, which is the Deathwatch shotgun, which is named that because no one else has it, and the heavy Thunderhammer, which no one else has. And if they
And the
do,
Furnace Heavy Bolter, which
yes,
again no one else has.
if they make wargear free or drastically less expensive, the Infernus heavy bolters are going to come out in spades.
Yes.
They're going to be in
As will the frag
every
cannons.
Deathwatch list because, like, right now they're 15 points or 10 for the Infernus heavy bolter. I think they're 10 right now, but I don't remember. I know they came down from what's in the book, so the book's wrong, but it's only going to be wrong by 5 points.
Well, the book has it at 15.
Okay. So they're 10 points right now, which is meh.
But
But
if they're
if
free,
they're free, yeah, if they're free, they're going in every list because, like, it's a heavy flamer and a heavy bolter.
and then you get the typewriter that puts the special ammunition keyword on it. You just got to put your book in a typewriter.
I'd rather put that on a Centurion Sergeant if we're gonna get the most out of that, but
Yeah, true. But
yeah, because you get Hurricane bolters with special issue ammo, which is gnarly.
yeah, yeah, that's nasty.
Yeah, I really love the potential that we're seeing here with Deathwatch, with the idea of even if you said like any wargear that's 10 points or less is 0, and anything that's like 10 points or more is reduced by 10 points. That means heavy Thunderhammers are only going to be 5 points. Thunderhammers are only going to be 2 points.
And
Storm Shields are going to be free, and that's just going to be in a really crazy spot.
and again, who knows what's really going to happen? They could be all free. They could be like reduced.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're even close to, you reduce some of the equipment costs for Deathwatch and for Space Wolves, and depending on how far it goes, how far this leak is true, you could end up with between Iron Hands, Imperial Fist, Space Wolves, and Deathwatch, they will come out as the top 4 Marine chapters.
Yeah, I believe it.
It's going to be Deathwatch and Space Wolves because of the equipment they can bring, Iron Hands and Imperial Fist because both of them have really weird armor save interactions that are still in their books that probably shouldn't be.
Man, it's going to be really weird to see Imperial Fist doing well at all. Because I've only been playing since 9th, basically, and Imperial Fists have been hot dog shit the entire time.
They have been bad for pretty much ever.
No, I thought they were really good in 8th for a bit. Because they had the exploding sixes and there was some like crazy synergies you could get off of that.
Um,
Oh, and they
during
ignored cover.
during 8th, there was a small, tiny bit of time before an FAQ destroyed the army where you could stay in Devastator Doctrine the whole game, which
Oh, okay.
which made all your heavy weapons do 1 additional damage, which that got FAQ'd, so now it has to be a strength 7 heavy weapon, which means it took all the heavy bolters out of the list of doing an additional
Oh,
damage. It
crazy.
also took all the Thunderfire cannons out, and the list for Imperial Fist was 3 Whirlwinds, 3 Scorpius Whirlwinds, 3 Thunderfire units, and that was pretty much your army, and you hid behind all the ruins and went, I'm just going to table you and then go get objectives.
Yeah. But
Because it was all indirect.
8th was a really different game too, where it was like there was primary, but primary was basically just how much of the other person's army you could kill, right? And then there were no secondaries, or were they mission specific?
Um, there. I'm trying to remember
All
now.
right. Yeah.
The additions are starting to blend together. I think 8th was when it was kill 1, kill more, and then hold one, hold more for primary and secondary.
Okay. I
I
don't want to get
think.
too far into a history lesson here because folks' eyes will glaze over and they'll just leave the stream. But
Yeah,
yeah,
probably.
because like nobody gives a shit about eighth. We're not playing eighth, right? Like it doesn't matter. We're
I
playing
mean,
ninth.
if you really want to do history, I could do a whole history lesson on second. I loved second,
There we go. Well, we could do
but
that later and preface it that way. We're in a history lesson with Professor Sniegowski.
not yet. I go back for my master's this year.
Oh, congratulations, man. That's awesome.
Thank you.
You're a teacher, right? For high school?
I am. Yes.
Math?
Yes.
Nice. As a 40K player, you do math. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm teaching honors calculus and honors algebra 2 and honors geometry this year.
Nice. I want to see the Thunderhammer. I want to unit crunch this and see what they do going into a big night. I'm sure it's pretty gnarly. But I'm not gonna waste everybody's time doing all
well,
that now because you know
5 heavy thunder hammers is 15 attacks. Hitting on 3s means you hit 10. Wounding on 4s means you wound
you're hitting
5.
on. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Go ahead.
And then you're rerolling 1 somewhere in there, so that adds 16% back, so it's close to 7. So you get about 7 wounds. The AP is 3, which means he saves 1 out of 6, so probably 5 or 6 go through, meaning you get an average of approximately 20 to 24 wounds on a night.
But you get -1 to hit with Thunderhammers, so you're only hitting on 4s.
Oh, I
So
was doing the heavy thunder hammers.
right, that's what I'm saying. But heavy
Oh yeah, only hitting
Thunderhammers,
on 4s.
yeah. So that
But that's
changes
where
the
the
math a
rerolls.
little bit. But if you add,
That's
yeah. But like if you need to kill a knight in a turn, you're not gonna do something like not put space wolves on them. And
yeah.
I'm assuming no AOR. So like if you have moved up your heavy Thunderhammer Vanguard vet and they've lived through, the knights firing at you, um, or they're just right behind some ruins where they can't get to it and you're counting on a charge, like you are going to buff the shit out of them. Like you're gonna
Definitely.
go into assault doctrine or and you're probably gonna spend 2 CP for Brotherhood of Veterans to make them Space Wolves. So they're gonna go in there and if you've put the Malleus kill team specialization on them, they're gonna reroll 1s to wound.
And if you put the chapter master ability, they reroll 1s to hit, so it changes that to 75% to hit.
Yeah, so you
You
can smoke a
do,
knight.
yeah, and you do blood angels. You don't do the exploding 6s. The blood angel actually pays off better against a knight.
Because of +1 to wound.
Yeah, because that takes you from a 50% to a 64% or
Yeah,
66%.
beautiful. Yeah, that's beautiful. So, I mean, it's just like if you need to kill their Warlord Knight with its 24 wounds T8, and then it's probably gonna, if it's a Chaos Knight, they can pop a strat for -1 melee damage, but they're going from 4s to 3s, which
Yeah, you're
still
still gonna.
sucks for them. You're not going from like 2s to 1. You're going from 4s to 3. So at the very least, that thing is limping around the battlefield for the rest of the
Well, and
game.
also you more than likely poured something into it beforehand. Like you're not gonna charge a full night.
Unless you, yeah.
Unless you have to. Yeah, unless you have to. But I
Unless it's
mean, you
some
probably
big,
threw,
like,
even if you
wargear.
threw bolter shots into it, you're probably still going to get 3 or 4 wounds through.
Yeah. So let's go back to the rumor about secondaries changing, so everybody will only get 3. Do you feel like that's more going with like AOS? Like, because for those of you that don't know, and I've only played one game of Age of Sigmar ever, at the start of your turn, if I remember right, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but at the start of your turn, you pick from a set of, I think it's only 5 or 6 generic, so it's the same for every army, secondaries, and it might be like kill 1 monster, kill 1 vehicle, kill 1 unit, grab this objective that this other guy was on, right? And if you do that, then you get X amount of points. but they're generic. So it doesn't matter what army you're playing. And otherwise, the only thing you're really scoring for is primary, and then you get a couple extra points from these secondary. So you, with that statement of where everybody's only going to get 3, do you feel like that's moving in the direction of AOS? Because we have no other information on what that means.
No, we do kind of have an idea of what that means.
Okay.
For those of us who play armies that are um, more represented in the Nephilim pack, they have 4 secondaries. Examples of that, Tyranids, I believe, have 4.
I see what you mean.
Uh,
One for every category.
Necrons, right.
Yeah.
Now, however,
Okay.
if you look at Imperial Fists, one of my favorite armies, um, they only have 1. I mean, yes, Marines in general have 3, but Imperial Fists only have 1.
I got you now.
So that's a total of 4. But if you look at, I think it's Blood Angels. Blood Angels have 4, and then 3 Space Marine secondaries, so they have 7.
Yeah. It's a lot of things to choose from. And they have all the ones from the core book, obviously. So they have
Right.
a deluge of choices.
And that's one of the reasons why Blood Angels, I think it's Blood Angels, Dark Angels, and Black Templars were the primary frontrunners for Marine choices, was because each of them had 3 or 4 secondaries from their book, plus 3 from the Marine book, plus the base secondaries. It just gave them better opportunities to score across an event.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, like, one of the things I always fell back on with my Deathwatch is, if it's game 3 in an RTT and I didn't sleep well the night before, I can always be like, well, I'll pick Oath of Moment, because, like, at the time that was actually a really good secondary. you know, like, you could score 12 almost every single game off of Oaths of Moment. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, you can't. It's not reliable now just because everything got so killy. But at the time, it was. I don't know what else to take. I guess we'll take Oath of Moment. You know.
Well, it was like before the Nephilim pack, everybody took Stranglehold
Mm-hmm. That's true.
because
Yeah.
Stranglehold was almost always a guaranteed 12, if not a 15.
I
Like
mean,
you didn't
it's
even have to think about it.
yeah. It still goes absolutely true. It still goes into your list building, right? Where, like, you have lists that can stay on their side of the board, almost never engage you. Maybe they throw some stuff up just to slow you down, to screen you out, or whatever, to move block you. But for the most part, they can sit on their 3 on a 6 objective mission, and they can just score almost maximum points, and they never have to come to you. We saw that a lot with Stranglehold, because Stranglehold was basically a given, right? It was
Yeah,
like,
and
why
even though
wouldn't you take it?
Stranglehold is gone, the Necron army still plays basically like Stranglehold. They throw a unit out, do their Necron secondaries, which are all stupid high scoring, and they
Is it
basically throw
Ancient
their army
Machineries?
away.
What's it
I'm
called?
sorry, say that again.
Is it Ancient Machineries? What is it called?
Oh, Ancient Machineries is dumb.
Yeah.
It's that one and
I played
uh,
I played a Necron
what's
player at this last RTT, and it was the first time I actually had somebody say that they're going to only take secondaries from their codex. So they gave
um,
me 3 names of 3 secondaries that I had no idea what they did, and I'm like, cool. I don't, like, usually at least one of these is like raise banners or engage on all fronts or something
oh
that I actually
yeah,
know what it does.
no, Ancient Machineries is almost always a 15, and Treasures of Aeons is almost always a 15.
There
They're
you go.
like 2
Yeah.
easy picks that are both like almost auto 15s. And the way they get them is by throwing their army away. They just throw them on objectives, obsec it up,
Mhm.
do the actions, score the points, and usually by turn 3 or 4, the Necron army's got like 3 units left, and all they got to do is hold on and hope you don't score any points because they're going to score a 90 to a 95.
Yeah. That tracks. That tracks.
It's what Necrons did. It's what they've been doing. That's the reason why they're so tough right now. and they're just not that tough of a book to be scoring 90, 95 as an average.
Yeah, they're not winning big tournaments, but they're definitely a gatekeeper army that you have to have a game plan for, and you have to know how they work, and you have to know how to stop them from scoring or do so much damage to them in turn 1 and 2 that they have nothing left to score with.
Exactly. You have to take over middle ground objectives. You have to push into them. It's an army where if you don't push, you lose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you gotta kill their fast stuff like wraiths really, really fast because wraiths will just overwhelm you too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm gonna remind everybody you can ask us questions. We're nearing 2 hours now, which is fantastic. Thank you, Jason, again for joining. I do want to get into the Grey Knight stuff really quick, just because I have a lot of overlap on my channel. Um, Strike Marines are supposed to go down. So power armor Marines for Grey Knights are supposed to go down like 2 points a model, army wide. Terminators are going down 5. Paladins apparently going down 5. Drago going down 15, which is overdue because he's 180 points, and that's when you consider Trajan's 200. That's just not. It's not a comparable data sheet for the 3-up
No.
invul.
No.
Librarians going down 5, and then apparently free infantry wargear upgrades and weapon upgrades. This is much less interesting than it is into Deathwatch, just because the amount of choices are far fewer in the Grey Knight Codex. But being able to throw psi cannons on your paladins for free, that's not bad at all, because they can take 4 in a unit of 10, um, unlike Terminators, which can bring 2. So you can hammer paladins. That's going to be because they're hitting on 2s naturally with their weapon skill. So you're gonna take 50 points of free upgrades, by giving them all hammers. Right now, you kind of see they add the hammer onto the Paragon because he has 5 attacks, hitting on 3s thanks to his 2-up weapon skill. But I can see hammer paladins being like the way to go. And you'll have a couple more dudes in your list, but I don't see. I mean, this is good. Like, I don't want to be seen as complaining. A 20-point Strike Marine has a Stormbolter, has the defensive profile of an Intercessor, has psychic powers, and has a Mastercrafted power weapon by default. So I'm not complaining. That is a very cheap unit at 20 points a model instead of 22. But I mean, it really matters what the missions are, how the arc detachment works out. Like, I'm optimistic. Don't get me wrong, but I am curious to see how it plays out versus, like, with my Deathwatch, I am stoked. I am just like over the moon with the idea that I get to play with all these weapon upgrades and have points left over, maybe even for um what do they call it? The specialisms, right? Which right
Yeah,
now, what?
the specialists.
Yeah. And if you aren't running the AOR, which requires you to take specialisms, like in a normal Deathwatch army, you don't see anybody take specialisms either, or ever. Especially when the book hit, they were very expensive. They've already come down in points once. There's a rumor they're going to come down again, which would be fantastic. And then with the removal of AOC, I assume, so this kind of goes back to the AOC talk, are the units that are currently you can't reroll wounds against them going to gain their original chapter or army rules back? So like Our Martyred Lady, right? They gave them you cannot reroll wounds against them because when AOC hit, their ability to ignore 1 pip of AP was effectively worthless. So they gave them you
Yep.
cannot reroll wounds. Salamanders was the same.
Yep.
And then Iron Warriors, I think, was also the same. So the only unit in the
Yeah.
game, the only army in the game right now, if this hits in the way that we think it will, that means Votan is now the only army left in the game
With AOC.
that will, and you cannot reroll wounds.
Yes.
Which, as a
Um,
Deathwatch player, being told you cannot reroll wounds feels super, super, super bad.
yes, yes. Um, so I really don't know on this. And I haven't heard anything, and no one's talked about it. It seems to be the one thing that everyone's glazing over. Um, Maybe they'll just leave it as can't reroll wounds. Maybe. Maybe they'll give it back. But I have heard nothing. In all of the podcasts and everything that I've kind of checked out on this, I've heard nothing. So I don't have any idea at all as far as what's going to happen to sisters, salamanders.
Mhm.
I don't know. Which kind of leaves them up in the air because I think they're garbage if all they get is you can't reroll to wound me.
You mean Deathwatch is garbage, or the other ones are garbage?
Not Votan, but sisters, martyred lady, and salamanders.
Yeah, and Iron Warriors. I don't know. I think look, I'm an Imperium fanboy. Okay, like I play Grey Knights. I have Imperium armies out the wazoo. I don't find myself enjoying the idea of like the lore of chaos or how they play, but they got kicked in the teeth with this. Like potentially, they got kicked in the teeth. Um,
Um,
pretty hard.
Chaos, yeah, Chaos did get, from what I understand, the one mark for Chaos went up points. Um, the Flamers for the Demon Codex, basically the only good unit out of the entire Codex, um, is now a roll to hit unit. So instead of being, uh, if they would have just made it just
Yeah,
lose the plus
flamers.
three, yeah, if they just lose the plus three, the unit was fine. You could have left it alone because that was just a D6 auto hits and it was a normal flamer. It was the fact that you gave them plus three that
It
was not good.
wasn't it strength 6 though?
Strength five.
Oh, was it? I thought it was strength 6. I thought that was like one of the big deals is that it was strength 6, but
No, it's actually the Tyrannid. The Tyrannid Pyrovore is strength six minus two, two
uh,
damage.
ooh.
Unlike the Flamers, which are strength five minus two, one damage.
Oh, exalted flamers are strength 6. That's what
The
Gabriel said.
The
Yeah.
Exalted Flamers are so good.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
nobody plays them because they're characters and they're super expensive. They were overpriced.
There's my confusion there. Also, the Grey Knight flamers are strength 6 minus 1 damage. Um
But again, you're talking the comparison like Flamers, the issue with the actual Flamers of Zinch was instead of them being a D3 plus 3, which would not have been bad,
would have
or a
been really
D6,
reliable. Yeah.
just no plus 3, the unit's fine. It's not even overpowered. It's the fact that I drop down a unit of 5 and I get an average of 33 auto hits on you at AP minus 2
Yeah.
because it's
That's
15. That's the problem. It's 5d6 plus 15.
yeah.
So just, hey, take 33 saves at minus 2 because I'm going to use the power for plus 1 to wound. And I got the character right near me that lets me reroll ones.
Yeah. And then they have that they have that all wounds power, right? Like that's the thing that I've never played demons yet, but I've always been told if you can deny that power, deny that power. Like
Well,
hold
last
on as long as
Christmas,
possible and deny that first.
last Christmas, my wife bought me a 40k army. Um, she got really uppity because like I never asked for anything for Christmas ever. And so finally she's like, "Well, I'm buying you a 40k army." So she went behind my back, found a couple people that knew what I was playing, and the one guy thought it was funny to tell her to buy me Thousand Suns. I did not own a single Chaos model. I've been playing since first edition. I own zero Chaos models.
So you're like me, where you're like, I just don't dig chaos. Not my thing.
Yeah, and then last Christmas I got a Thousand Suns army.
Yeah. I will say I do own about 2,000 points of demons.
Uh,
Most of them are
yeah,
Nurgle though, which are terrible.
I own all the big guys because I love painting them.
Yeah,
I own
they are.
Magnus, I own Morty, I own Bellicor. I love painting those models. but I'd never had anything else to go with them.
I gotta say the difference between like going for my Grey Knights, which I want to look pristine. I don't want any grime or dirt or nastiness on them. I want them to be these like pure knightly warriors, and then painting like a beast of Nurgle. We're like, oh no, my brush slipped. Meh, it's a
Yeah,
beast of Nurgle. It just looks like more goop. Like who cares?
yeah,
it
yeah. The only
it
thing you
was
got to be
nice.
exact with is the blood.
Yeah. Where's it coming from?
Yep.
Um, to answer, Time Guy is asking. First of all, he's thanking us for spending a bunch of time answering all of his questions. He's asking which combat patrol should he get for Deathwatch. The first thing I have to say is it depends on what you're trying to buy and what you have. Um, I haven't looked at the new ones, so unfortunately, this answer is a little lopsided. But at the time that I started playing Deathwatch, the Dark Angels Combat Patrol had just come out, and at the time, that was like all the units that you wanted for a Deathwatch army. That was before the army of Renown, so it came with like a Redemptor Dreadnought, and it came with a whole bunch of other things that you were like Inceptors that you were definitely going to use. Unfortunately, I don't know anything about the new ones. And there were 4 of them released, right? There's like a Salamanders one, an Iron Hands one, probably an Ultramarines one, and then I don't remember what the 4th one was. Probably Blood Angels. Um, so I don't. I unfortunately don't know how to answer this question. Um, at the time, it was
Here's what
definitely Dark Angels.
here's what I'm going to say about this. I I would say don't buy anything yet. And the reason why I say that is the the points drops once they are official is going to determine what the top players believe are viable. Now, if you're a competitive player and you want to be involved in tournaments and you want to run Deathwatch in tournaments, what you're looking for is to see what those guys are trying to put together. That's going to be what's going to be best for you. If you're just some guy who loves 40K and loves the models and you love the hobby and you don't care if you win, lose, or draw when you bring your Deathwatch to the table, then buy what you like and buy it now.
Hell yeah.
But if you actually compare or care about being competitive, just wait. It's too much research and too much effort to put the effort in. If you're going to LVO, feel free. I mean, hunt me down on Facebook or something, message me. I'll help you out and talk about it. Um, but if you're not going to LVO, wait and see what is ran at LVO. Right now, there's about a 50 to 70% chance if all the new stuff is in. You can look me up at LVO on BCP. My Death Watch list will probably be there. If the new points and Dataslate are not in, I will be playing NIDS. But I can almost guarantee you it's either going to be Death Watch, Iron Hands, or Space Wolves for me if the new stuff is in.
All right. So that's all excellent information. Um, I brought up the webpage. It's on the stream right now that actually talks about them. Iron Hands comes with 2 Redemptors, 10 Interceptors, a Primaris Tech Marine, and Ferris Manus, which of course you're going to have to run as another Tech Marine, which is fine. It's an awesome model. So if you want to go Dreadnought heavy, that's a great box. Also, painting Redemptors, I don't know why, but it like tickles me pink. I love actually painting those. They are amazing.
Love painting
The
Dreadnoughts.
Yep, who doesn't love Dreadnoughts? The Salamanders box is 20 intercessors, so if you really need intercessors, go for it, I guess. And then it's 3 aggressors, 3 eradicators, an impulsor, which is interesting. 1 blade guard veteran,
Don't buy that box.
which is super. Yeah, I would skip this one because you probably don't need that many intercessors just to start off, and you're never going to use the impulsor unless they get a huge. Now, I should preface this. I'm talking competitively with the information that we currently have, which is not all
Yes,
the
yes.
information that we're going to have.
We're
So
not
I
talking Fun Hammer.
yeah. So I would Iron Hands looks really good right now. The White Scars box is all bikes except for their Khan, who's
Casaro Khan on foot, biggest
yeah.
troll of the year.
And then the Primaris Chaplain is an amazing unit, an amazing model, also super fun to paint. The bikes not great with what we know right now, so I would skip this box too, unless you really want to paint bikes. And I would just buy the Primaris Chaplain on bike by itself.
Yep.
And the Ultramarine box, it looks like it comes with Inceptors, which is great. It comes with who else? It comes with Magnar. Who's their
Arnius,
Marnius? Who's their chapter leader right now? Is that his name?
Marnius Kelgon.
That's
Yeah,
yeah,
Kelgar.
Kelgar. That's it. Otherwise, it looks like that is a ton of Primaris Hellblasters and Interceptors and one Librarian and 3 Blade Guard. And one
That's
oh
interesting.
and 2 of the Vitrix guards, the guys with the like the or Stern guards, the guys with like the eagle face mask, which you can't run in Deathwatch as that data sheet. Obviously, you could proxy them as other stuff. So out of the
They're
four new
veterans.
ones, I would just buy the Iron Hands box. The other 3 don't seem that great for us
Iron Hands
personally.
or Ultramarines. I mean, you could probably do something weird with the Ultramarines one. And sometimes it's always just good to have weird bodies.
A lot of
Um,
intercessors in that box, unless they're heavy, and I just can't tell the difference from this one tiny photo.
uh, they don't look like heavy intercessors. I've painted enough of them.
Yeah, so it looks like you're gonna get 3 Inceptors, 3 Blade Guard, a Librarian, Calgar, 2 Vixtrix Guards, or whatever they're called, Stern Guards, I can't remember. Um, 5 Hellblasters, 10 Hellblasters, and 10 Intercept. So, that one's alright. It's okay. It really depends on what you need. If you need a Librarian, I think that's actually Tiggy, but you can just run him as a normal Librarian.
Does he have a big staff? I can't make it out. If
Yeah,
he has a big staff, it's
yeah, he has
Tigurius.
a big old staff.
Yeah,
With the big
that's
U on
Marnius.
it and stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
and this is
But
Calgar.
interesting point on that is um I didn't even think about Hellblasters. If Hellblasters come down in points,
Love my ass
Hellblasters
blasters, man. Love my ass blasters.
they could be really good.
Yeah,
They could be next level good.
the rapid fire ones might be really good into a T8 meta. The ass blasters will still be not that great because they only go from strength 6 to strength 7 when you overcharge them. But it is a lot of shots. It's 3 shots per guy. So,
I think if I remember these right, I think I'd run the heavy ones. And
uh,
then
they have great range, but they only have 1 shot apiece. And
so
if they
what? Use the
move, they're at
Brotherhood?
a -1 to hit. So
Yeah, but if you use the Brotherhood thing, does Iron Hands can move and fire heavy weapons.
yeah, but you're spending 2 CP every turn on that unit just to make
You
them
just the
+1
turn
to
you
hit.
move them out. Just the turn you move them out.
Yeah, 2 CP in the Nephilim meta, 2 CP feels rough.
Feels harsh. Yeah.
Yeah. If it was 1
Wow.
CP, sure. But like, eesh.
Yeah, you supercharge them for 3 damage each. Strength 9 -4.
Yeah, which
That might be
means
worth it.
in in Devastator they're -5. And
Yeah.
Deathwatch picks which turn we're in Devastator, which doesn't seem like an amazing super doctrine, but holy shit, is that actually really good?
Yeah, it really is. It really is. It's so beneficial because you're like, oh, all my shooting units are dead. I guess we're going to enter Assault Doctrine.
Yeah, I mean, if you bring like 2 Gladiator Reapers, some heavy Hellblasters, and a 4 disc kill team. You combat squad them to leave the intercessors behind, to hold objectives or just run around and grab other stuff as sticky obsec. That means you wait till turn 2, turn 3, and then you pick Devastator. That means all the shots from the Gladiator, all the shots from your Plasma are going to be having an extra pip of AP, and that could be really, really, really good.
Yeah, that could be devastating.
Hey,
That could be really good.
because it's Devastator Doctrine, right?
That could be really good.
Yeah. Let's see. Someone's asking, what's the average amount of Deathwatch at LVO normally? I've only been to one. I ran into Lou Rollins playing his.
Yep, Lou was there.
I saw one person in the friendly tournament with a beautiful Deathwatch army. There are some photos of it on my Instagram. What they did is they actually painted it right down the middle, like from forehead to groin. The right half was actually painted like their full chapter. The left half was black with the big arm, all silver. It was so gorgeous. And they did that on their Redemptors, their infantry, their bikes, everything. So
Yeah, that was a good looking army.
I saw 2 Deathwatch there when I was at LVO, but there were 700 some odd players, and there's no way I saw everyone's army.
And last year I chickened out and took orcs.
Yes, you did, which made me sad, but I understood why. Like, we didn't have the AOR at the time, and the Drakari meta or menace had been blunted pretty hard, so we didn't need to run our 6 dreadnought list anymore, which is kind of what made like Deathwatch really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then have people here asking, do you have an order which you run your doctrines, or is it matchup and map dependent? Unfortunately, it's entirely the latter.
Yeah,
Um,
100%.
yeah. I can't always say like, yeah, I burn an assault and then go like tactical devastator or whatever. It just depends
So
on what you have versus what they have versus how close they are to you on the mission. What do you need to do that specific turn? And that's why I think it's so incredibly powerful. Is because like if you get backed into a corner and you're like, I have to make these 3 charges and kill these 3 units this turn or I lose. At the start of your turn or the start of the round, you can say, I'm in assault. You already know.
yeah, and that is the big benefit for Deathwatch is that when the game turns, you can change it to what you want to change it to. And the other benefit is if you build your army, so let's say I have a lot of heavy weapons and a lot of melee, but I have like no tactical weapons, like no bolters, no flamers, I can just throw a tactical doctrine down and be like, hey, you're all behind cover, I'm all behind cover. There's turn 1, have some tactical doctrine. I'm not
Yeah,
wasting my strategy on you.
exactly. Yeah. And that's what a lot of people playing into Space Marines will do is they're like, okay, I see they have 3 Redemptor Dreadnoughts and an Astraeus or whatever, and it's like, okay, I'm just gonna hide turn 1, and then I will blunt their heavy weapons a lot by making them waste their Devastator. Where if we run that list, we wait until we need
Yep.
Devastator, which is probably turn 2 or 3, and then we're gonna bring the pain.
Yeah, I got my Astraeus right there.
Yeah, baby, mine is not painted, but I really want to run it. Again, I don't think it's necessarily good, but I think it's really cool to bring a super heavy. Um, and that one
It's too
flies.
many points. It's too many points.
It is. It's like 555 if you give it all the upgrades. It's really
It's it,
expensive.
it's so bad too. I mean, if it was just a little bit better, it might be worth the points. It's just so bad.
Yeah, there was an Ultramarines player that brought one and took a GT, but I don't know who they went into or anything like that. So Might have gotten real lucky with their matchups. I don't know.
How do you? I'm not gonna go into that.
Yeah.
Like, how do you
The
lose against that?
the Astreus is also can be kind of skewy because a lot of people don't know what it can do or like how void shields work and everything. So,
Yeah.
Jose is asking, is there place for Artemis? Yes, you can do exactly um, what I've seen done before, which is you make him a watch sergeant and you never let him lead anything. He's a really cool model. His rules are ass, and he's unmodifiable, unlike a normal watch captain. Because you can like give him a storm shield or a jetpack or or a this or a that, and with Artemis you're just stuck with what Artemis comes with. Uh,
Which
and,
is
he,
garbage.
and his one special thing is some like stun or stasis grenade,
Yep.
which I guess an eighth used to be able to actually kill himself with, which is fucking hilarious.
Hilarious.
He
Yep.
can't do that now. He can't actually kill himself with it, but it's also not good. Like, why bring a character that's expensive to throw a grenade in his shooting phase? It just feels
Well,
bad.
yeah. It and not only that, but I mean, it's a one-shot weapon for a D6 mortals. So if you just roll a one because it's mortal wounds, you don't get to re-roll it. There's the command re-roll doesn't work on mortals. It works on damage, and it's not damage, it's mortals. So you go, cool. I did one. I'm done.
He is a cool model though. So
He is. Yes.
again, Deathwatch is like the ultimate hobbyist, like fetishist army. You can take anything from anyone. Like I made a joke a while ago when I ran to my local hobby store. I wanted some Terminators, and they only had the Space Wolf ones. And I'm like, great, I play Deathwatch. This is a Deathwatch kit because it does like Space Wolves, Dark Angels, Blood Angels. I don't care. I'm gonna like I can buy up Death Company and just run them as Deathwatch if I want. It doesn't matter. It's just
It's the great thing about
hobby.
Deathwatch. Buy whatever you want, slap the Deathwatch shoulder pad on it, you're good to go.
Yes, sir. Make sure that arm is painted silver and then go to town. Actually, you don't even have to do that.
No, I went weird. Most of my Deathwatch is yellow because
They
all my
were
Marines are yellow.
imp fists, yeah. Um, Aaron is also asking, same thing with Cassius. He's got a cool leadership ability. I'm just not sure if I should field him without his kill team. Oh, Cassius, the actual HQ. Can you
Yeah.
bring him without? This is how little I've actually looked into this. Can you bring Captain Cassius without Kill Team Cassius?
You can. He's a chaplain, and he
That's it.
is
That's right.
he's hit and miss. I've ran lists where he is very useful, and I've also ran lists where he is. I would rather have a bike chaplain. Um, what it comes down to is what you're trying to do with your army. If you're trying to run a a ranged weapon type of chaplain where you're using the abilities for +1 to wound and etc., then I 100% would go with Chaplain Cassius. He's a way better choice. If you're running a melee based army where you're gonna eventually charge out, the bike chaplain is just a better choice.
Yeah, so he gets he
He
gets
gets +1.
fiery conviction, so he gets the what is it? Master of Sanctity upgrade for free, or is it the chief?
It's +1 to cast a litany.
Yeah. So
So
he
he just gets it on twos.
yeah, so he just naturally casts on twos, so you don't have to spend the like warlord trait upgrade or whatever. I don't can he does have special issue ammo on his Deathwatch bolt pistol, which doesn't matter. It's
No, it does
like
not.
that one shot from a strength 4 gun is not gonna change the whole game. Can you give him the warlord trait for? Nope, you can't give him the warlord trait to let him cast 2 powers. So
No,
yeah,
'cause I think
he gets +1 to cast it, but he doesn't get the second. So an unnamed chaplain is better, especially the one on bike, even though it's far more expensive. The added toughness, the added wound, the ability to cast 2 litanies, and then also his speed. Just the Primaris Chaplain on bike is so good.
And you're 100% right on that. The Primaris Chaplain on bike is just way better. However, if you're in a point crunch and you're trying to bring like a ranged buff unit, something that you put the reroll hits on, something you put the +1 to wound on. I have run Cassius and he does work.
And then if the question is how does he compare to a regular non-Primaris Chaplain, I guess he's 15 points more expensive, and he also, again, he can't get those upgrades. And
Yeah.
a regular Chaplain you can put a jump pack on, which is actually kind of hilarious. I just realized this.
Yes, you can.
So Master of Sanctity is 1 additional litany. That's 25 points. Is it 1 additional or is it +1 to cast? No, it's
I don't
1
remember.
additional. Okay, so 25 points.
And then the Warlord traits +1.
Yeah. So
you're looking at a CP and 25 points
yeah, so
to
you're
do
looking
that.
at 10 more points than Cassius and a CP to do what Cassius does, but then also have another litany for the non-Primaris guy. So already, unless you're in a severe points crunch, I don't know that I would take Chaplain Cassius ever.
Well, in Nephilim, I'm not sure I'd waste the CP for an additional litany.
Oh, you mean if you're
Because
just bringing him for the range buffs?
yeah.
Where it's like you get +1 to
Yeah.
hit against the closest target? Is that what it is?
I think it's +1 to wound against the closest target. But yeah,
Yeah. That's
I
pretty
would never, like, if I'm just doing one thing.
Yeah, that's fair. But even so, you're going to bring like so 15 points for +1 to cast. That's probably worth it. But we'll see how much the points drop.
It'll probably go down like to 9.
Yeah, you could run them along like Aaron's saying right here. You could run them along with an Indom team of like plasma inceptors and give them
Oh,
+1 to wound or whatever. Or
yeah.
maybe that's how you make ass blasters really good is you overcharge them for 2 damage, -5 in tactical, strength 7, but now they get +1 to wound. So when you're shooting into knights or tanks, you're still wounding on 4s, which I don't know. Still not that.
That's why you take the heavies and then you wound on 3s, and then the +1 makes it 2s.
Yeah, and that is actually scary as hell.
Yes.
Yeah. Too bad we
Especially
don't.
if you're like, hey, by the way, I'm Deathwatch. I reroll 1s for heavies.
Yep. So you hit on 2s, rerolling 1s. Or sorry, wound on 2s, rerolling 1s. Mwah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then the
Pretty
Watchmaster goes,
good.
hey, these guys are going to all reroll to hit. I don't want you on the board anymore.
Yeah,
I
maybe I
don't,
get to paint up my heavy plasma guys here.
the heavy Hellblasters.
Yeah. I've
I got
got a
10 of them waiting.
I got 5 on the shelf built, but not even primed because their their day was not this day, but it might be this day.
It might be.
This coming day. Whatever. Any other questions? We are nearing 2.5 hours, and I haven't eaten dinner yet. What is
Oh,
it?
that's right.
11? Is it 11:30 where you're at right now?
It is 11:30 where I'm at right now.
Yeah. So
And my kids are still up playing video games.
how old are your kids?
My twin boys are 14.
Oh, I mean 14 staying up to midnight. They're gonna stay up anyway, whether they're in their
Yeah.
bedroom or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna give it just a couple more minutes for questions. However, I will ask you, Jason, I mean, other than LVO, which is clearly the next big thing next month, um, and you're hosting a tournament. You said in a week, right?
January 7th and 8th, Glass City Grand Tournament.
Yeah. So you got 2 big tournaments. One that you're hosting coming up this next month. What's that like running a tournament, especially a GT?
In all honesty, running a GT is a lot of fun. it's kind of like going to a convention and just hanging out and not having anything to do except hang out, talk to all your friends, and just watch them enjoy what they like to do. The only difference is that I have to make rules calls and keep track of the points.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of busy. Um, my wife, the store that we have it at, there's a kitchen in the area in the back, so my wife does catering for it.
Oh wow.
And so we have like instead of everyone having to go out to get lunch, she does like tacos and barbecue beef and stuff like that, and we sell it out of there. We don't really make a lot of profit on it, but it's not for that purpose. It's to actually make the event
That
uh more easily ran,
yeah.
less problems.
That also sounds so much better than like LVO, right? Because last year, I think Vegas had just come out of lockdown a couple of months before. A lot of the
Oh yeah.
restaurants in the casino we were in weren't even open. So
Yep.
you could either go get like Korean beef,
That
or you
Korean
could
barbecue
go
place was
yeah,
amazing.
or you could go to that little hamburger place that was like $14 for a frozen hamburger that was reheated real quick.
Yeah, which
Or you
was not
could
good.
run off and try to bring your own food, which was its own logistical nightmare.
Actually, if you went out the one corner, uh you were right across the street from a Chick-fil-A,
Oh, okay.
and I went over there every day for lunch.
Nice. I've never actually eaten at one. I have, yeah, I'm not going to get into politics. Never mind. I'm going to
I,
stay out of that.
I could
But,
care less about politics. I'm a big fat guy. If the food's tasty, I'm going to eat it.
well, I mean, you gotta. That's the thing about anybody looking to go to a tournament, even an RTT. Like, you need to think about staying hydrated. You need to think about having enough food to eat, and you need to think about your fucking feet. Don't don't wear. Everyone loves Converse. Don't wear them at a tournament unless you hate your knees and your lower back and your heels. They have no
Yeah,
padding.
100%.
They have no padding at all.
100%.
Don't wear them. They look great. Don't wear them. Bring a water bottle. Drink your water. Like, hail hydrate, and make sure you either have snacks or easy access to food, because otherwise you'll have brain drain real bad. Um,
Yes.
Aaron is thanking us for all of our time. He's learning a lot about the long vigil, and he appreciates the experience. He says he's going to start hitting tables in Jan. So, Aaron, do you mean you're going to start going to RTTs, or you're going to start playing like little pickup games? Either answer is fine. By the way, I'm not trying to. Not
No,
trying
he's
to.
saying he's saying he's going to come out to LVO and hang out with us.
There you go. Your first tournament ever should be LVO.
What's the difference? I mean, if you're going to go to an event, what does it matter? It's a whole bunch of 90% of the people that play this game are cool people. They are just fun to hang out with. They're great people. I mean, I met you. I've we've hung out a couple times over Discord. We hung out at LVO.
Mhm.
I don't remember too much of LVO because people were feeding me way too much alcohol. But
Was pretty great.
yeah, it was. I can't remember most of it. But 90% of the people that play this game are great people, and all they want to do is have fun with their little plastic dolls. Those are the people that you want to be part of.
I've played a lot of games. I mean, not as many as Jason has. I've played in, Garage Hammer. I've played on TTS. I've played in RTTs and LVO. I've only had one bad experience with one player, and it was we realized about halfway through turn two why. It was because I'm a stutterer and he was hard of hearing. So even the one bad experience I had wasn't even that bad once we both figured out why we weren't able to communicate very well. so so go out there, play your games. I'm gonna let everybody go. It's been 2.5 hours. Jason, thank you so much. I think about 3.5 hours ago you messaged me saying we should do a stream, and I
Yeah,
was
it
like,
was. It
that's
was
a great
about
idea. Oh yeah, Aaron, if you can get to Vegas, man, you should go to LVO. Um, it's a great way to get in a lot of games. Um, Super recommend it. So you're gonna play at least 6
Yeah, and it doesn't even matter if you win, man. It's
or 9, 9,
well, it's
6.
only 9 if you make day
Right.
3,
Yeah.
or if you sign up for the RTT on Sunday. So it's at least 6. You can easily do 9 either way.
Yeah.
But
That's fair.
it's like I said, 90% of the people in this game are just good people. They're just there to have a good time. So I mean, I'll be there with the Air Force team, the Air Force 40K team. I know that even though Art of War will be there, they have some good guys. I like to hang out with some of them. DOG will be there, Death or Glory. They also have a bunch of good guys. There's just a whole bunch of people that are just in this community that are only there because we all enjoy the same thing and we
Yep.
just want to have a good time playing with our Mandals.
Yep. That's a great way of phrasing it. I spent a lot of time with Brad last year. That was a ton of fun. Went to dinner with um, Brad and Hunter. He's not on Art of War, but he won best in faction Space Wolves that year. So he beat out Jaime and other like amazing Space Wolves players. Yeah, awesome guys. Like su- super chill. You can go and jump into any group and just start talking. um, yeah, well, I don't know, man. One quick caveat, just, and I've said this story before. I guess it's not really a caveat, but to put it into perspective, my second game at LVO was against Alex from Art of War.
Alex
And
Fennel?
hmm?
Alex Fennel?
No, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm blanking on his name right now. Um,
'Cause I
he
can only think
plays
of,
GSC. That's his main.
I can't think of
Oh
his
my
name.
god,
I know Jack.
I'm sorry,
I know
Alex. Um,
yeah, I also am sorry because I probably know him as well. But I can only think of Harpster, Lennon, Siegler, and Nanavanti right now for Art of War.
yeah. Oh man. Anyway, the guy is really, really good. He's run multiple. He's won multiple GTS with GSC, and um. Anyway, he kicked the shit out of me that whole game with a smile on his face, cracking jokes, like giving me tips and tricks and hints to like help me out that made me a better player for the rest of that tournament. So like even though he won that game handily, I think I gave him like a 97 or something. Like he kicked my butt. It was still a really, really, really good experience. So um, go out there, hit those tournaments. You'll have a lot of fun. So with that, I will end the stream. Thank you again, everybody. Thank you again, Jason. Go get your reps in. And don't forget, call your mother. Is there anything you'd like to plug, Jason?
Nope, just thanks for hanging out with us and thanks for having me on.
All right, man. Thank you much. And everybody have a great night. I will see you probably in 2023. This will likely be my last stream of 2022. So
There you go.